When you think about businesses like Allbirds or Skims that are selling through the roof, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But what's often overlooked is the business behind the business that makes it all possible. For millions of businesses, that's Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. With Shop Pay, you can boost conversions by up to 50%, meaning fewer abandoned carts and way more sales. Whether your customers are scrolling online, strolling through your store, or browsing social media, Shopify ensures you're ready to sell wherever they are. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/DAX, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/DAX to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/DAX.
The Swell Season Podcast is recorded by the Newsstand Studio at Rockefeller Center in the heart of Manhattan and is distributed by the Swell Season Surf Radio Network. Hello, and welcome to the Swell Season Surf Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Brewer. Mention the name Justin Schwartz to a number of OG New York surfers, you'll get a variety of reactions. From surfing savant, to great friend, to killer taco proprietor, to fuck that guy. Justin invites a variety of opinions. One of my earliest memories of Justin was as a teenage grommet, goofing around on logs, whom I looked up to and would enjoy surfing with. Justin has lived many lives, from being a banker and working in finance, to competing in top-level competitions and representing New York, to owning and establishing one of Long Island's premier taco joints, Matataco. Justin has chosen a life less ordinary and has lived it to the fullest. He's a New York surfing staple. You can find him cross-stepping at Ditch or pulling in behind the curtain at Lido. His surfing is versatile and has no doubt had an influence on the younger generations. I'm stoked to welcome onto the Swell Season Podcast, Justin Schwartz. How was the trip in?
Relatively easy. It's the jitney. It's like first stop to the last stop, pretty much.
But you're coming in to pick up a board?
I was trying. I'm not gonna be able to work it out with Kings.
Oh, really?
But when Christian Beamish was here in early July, he did a 7.5 mid-length for black belts for me.
Oh, wow.
I have a 9.1 that Trent from Enlighten got for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome, but it's a little bit more of a glider until it gets like a huge day.
Yeah.
And then it like really will come alive. And I was like, I wanted something I could like stuff in a pocket more without like really having to telegraph the setup.
What do you think of the Beamish designs?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from that Parish single fin mentality.
Chandler. You and your single fin mentality.
Totally. But in the channel bottoms, he has a very much like Morning of the Earth influenced.
Yeah.
You know, he credits them a ton.
Was that the Simon Jones or whatever? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he does that right. I have the Rifle Ranger from Christian Beamish, which is like a ridiculous twin fin channel bottom. And you get with those boards the same confidence that you do with the Parishes. Like, you know, if you're going to make it to your feet, you can trust the board to make the wave.
Yeah. Do you like? How do they feel on the smaller, flatter, weaker waves? Like I'm like, oh, I'd love a channel bottom, but then I'm always like, well, when am I going to use?
Yeah.
When am I going to use it?
I
you
think
know,
with the 9-1,
yeah,
it becomes more of like on the smaller days you're just using it as a longboard.
yeah.
Or like a substitute to a longboard. So if it's like a 1 to 2 foot really racy, bowly day,
Yeah.
like just screaming down the line,
Yeah.
you can cheater 5 those things
Yeah.
and still, get a proper,
Yeah.
step back on the tail and do a proper turn. And he says, like, Beamish says, whether it's a small or a big wave, you're going to change the fins from like that Parish, that Parish 7.5 to go into like green out like 9.5. So the smaller days you use like that narrower based fin that's a little longer.
Yeah.
And you're going to get like a little more flick out of it, I guess.
Yeah.
The 7.5, that Parish is super wide base, and it's crazy, as I always would think, a bigger fin on such a big board, but the fin works really well.
Are you still riding your Parish as well?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
You got any new ones in?
I've only got one in the last couple of years. Luckily, or however you want to call it, Tom relocated from Maui to France like right before the fires.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Lucky but unlucky. Unlucky for the people who are still there, and then Tom definitely felt at a loss being in France, and everyone out of communication. And a lot of his friends lost everything. Heavy,
dude. It's fucking horrendous, and unfortunately, the news cycle seems to have moved on too.
Of course.
And it's like, it sucked. It was a shit situation. You have friends over there, I imagine.
A couple, a couple that we have, and like I said, some people lost everything. A lot of people from Montauk had condos in Lahaina.
Yeah.
Like their retirement condos that they've had for 10, 15 years. Those are all of them are gone.
Wow.
All of them are gone. And it's our second home. We're fortunate we still have our main home.
Yeah.
They're more concerned for their friends who were there full time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like with every disaster, you get a 6 months of like maybe at most, and then it's gone and forgotten. Sandy's a perfect example. 6 months out, and you're like, fuck, I still don't have electricity. I still don't have running water.
Yeah.
My basement's still full of shit. I really we're focused on whatever else. How about like someone besides Red Cross come in and do something right for once? And that's always how it goes.
You were in Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
At the time?
Yeah, I was.
What happened for you guys there? How bad? You were right on the water.
Yeah,
on the
we were on
Bayside.
Reynolds Channel.
Shit.
Like down the block from Minnesota's.
Fuck.
Yeah, I think the only upside for us was we got hit in Irene the year before, where a lot of Long Beach got spared.
Yeah, I remember.
So when Sandy looked like it was going to be a fuck you up, where Irene looked pretty okay, we started to take some measures before some other people did. And our neighbor's like, why are you so stressed out? And I was like, man, I'm not going to lose everything again. And like go to a neighbor, and I was like, hey, we're going to put the generator up on the 3rd floor. And they're like, what? Why? And I was like, well, because when the basement and the 1st floor get washed away, the toolbox and the generator, everything are going to be up top. Even if the windows get blown out, it's still not under 20 feet of salt water or 10 feet of salt water. And I think that we were lucky because I had friends upstate who sent some guys to help us out.
Yeah.
It was impossible to find help. Everyone, your buddy who's an electrician or a plumber or whatever who could help you out is like, dude, I lost my fucking house too.
Yeah.
I I'm just as screwed as you are. And by the way, I left my tools in the basement.
Yeah, well, and everyone and any sort of qualified electrician, they were booked for like years after.
Totally.
I remember like, and like in New York City and like Rockaway, I remember we were all like, can we get people? And they're like, no, because you have to be a certain code too for New York City, which is different than Long Island, which also made it like really difficult.
I think where for those first few months it was so Wild West.
Yeah.
If you were just able to get someone in and slap some shit together, then they would come do an inspection. They're like, when did you get this done? And I was like, I kind of like, slap some shit together. They're like, oh yeah, we could kind of stamp. And who'd you get anyway? I need that in my house too. So that you kind of let stuff slide. And like I said, the building inspectors in Long Beach or wherever, we were all in the same position. Yeah. So in an instance where probably in the past, if you did some shit that was a little fugazi and you said to someone, cut me some slack. Yeah. They'd be like, it's my fucking job. I'm not cutting you anything. Here, in this instance, cut me some slack. Look, I'm back. I got heat. Yeah. Do you want a glass of water? You want a cold beer out of the fridge? Can you cut me some slack on this one? Oh, yeah.
How long did it take to recover and rebuild your place?
Say like 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
5 to 6 months, and we were one of the first. Yeah. For sure. Because a lot of people were waiting, for
years,
insurance payouts, for this, that, and the other thing. We knew we weren't going to be able to raise the house, so that just set us, okay, this is what we can do. Yeah. But other people, gosh, I remember the first person in Long Beach to raise their house. And then, they got someone from down south, they raised the house, and it's like miscommunication between FEMA and New York State, how high you're supposed to raise a house, and they're like 8 inches short of how tall the house was supposed to be raised. And you're like, no fucking way. And they're like, FEMA said this, and we just followed but New York State hadn't set the new guideline yet, and like, now we got to get it.
Fuck.
And I was like, throw some cinder blocks on like 8 inches. Yeah.
I would just dig sand around the foundation to make that 8 inches.
There's really so many things that, or like people, steps, like they're like, oh, you're within your property, but now your steps are out on the road. You can't do that. And you're like, well, where am I going to put my steps? They're like, figure it out. Have you thought about putting an elevator in the house? Dude, come on.
Spiral staircase?
Yeah, I have no money, and no one had any money left,
Pulley system?
Totally. A dumbwaiter?
We're not making fun of waiters. No. For those of you who aren't aware of what a dumbwaiter is.
Totally. Google it.
It's crazy like how West Long Beach now is like everything is raised up now, though. It's so wild, and I would dare say that it's added value to those homes quite a bit, though, too, because it's just added so much more square footage to them as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people, I think once someone went really big on one block, and the neighbors were just like, hey, they got the okay. We're good to do that. And they're like, well, you kind of can't go above this height. And they're like, well, not to be a dick, but so-and-so just did it, and they're like, well, don't go above that height then.
The firehouse was raised above it.
Right, exactly. I still got to be able to see the flagpole at the firehouse, so I got to go up a little taller.
How long was that then until you moved out of Long Beach, and what was the reason for that?
My ex and I, it seemed like after Sandy, that the island had sunk a little bit, and that every nor'easter, whereas like we never had it happen before, every nor'easter the basement would fill up with water, 2 feet, 4 feet of water, And like, you don't mind it when it's like October or April, but when it's like February and you got to go with like your 5'4", your booties, and like turn the pump on,
Ugh.
and you're like, did the pump kick on? And you're like, shit, it didn't kick on. All right, here we go again. And it just, the house, it continued. It got worse and worse as it went, 1 year, 2 years, the third year. And I distinctly remember a gentleman came and knocked on the door one day, and I was at the house, and I was talking with my ex, and he was like, hey, I want your house. I was like, well, it's not for sale. And he's like, whoa.
I'll make you an offer. You can't refuse.
Everything's for sale. And he kind of made an offer, and I was like, yeah, I think we're moving. And that was, I think you definitely got like a bit of PTSD.
Yeah.
And amongst other things, just like seeing your neighbors still not in, seeing your neighbors' houses get torn down, knowing they were never going to come back. And you're just a lot of things, dealing with the blow-ins who are there doing just the insurance, following the insurance money. They just follow disaster to disaster. And God bless them, but some of them are just not the best people to have around after a disaster because they're fucking disasters themselves. And and at the same time, you're on the cusp of becoming a disaster, and you're trying to do everything to maintain your sanity and not just go into like total meltdown mode. You'd be like a month later and there's still boats all over Island Park. And you're like, when is that boat going to get out of here? You're driving down Oceanside Road. It's like, when are they going to get that boat out of here? Do you think they're going to get the sand out of that building? And to this day, you still see buildings that are just half
finished.
Yeah, half finished.
Or half raised even.
Totally.
Like they're on pallets,
Yeah.
and they're not very sound. And you're like, how did that get there?
And it gets, and so you definitely going back, sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
And I feel like now it's been how many years? 14 years?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That
10, 12 years at least. Yeah.
People forget.
Yeah.
So like not even just the 6 months after, but now people are like, well, that shit's not going to happen. And I'm like, fuck. Dude, it's like we live on an island that faces south in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We're the magnet.
Sea level is rising.
Totally.
Totally. Like it is. Yep. Sea level's rising. It's going to happen. Like, I mean, I'm the one to talk. I mean, I moved to Rockaway.
Yeah.
But they built a really good, solid boardwalk, and I'm on the 3rd floor, so.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's at least one story above when the shit hits the fan.
Do you remember when we were grommet surfing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Like Lido Beach?
Totally.
Like that? Like I always...
Malibu?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I always think back, like, to me, there's this session where we were at Lido riding longboards when... It wasn't cool for younger people to ride longboards too. And I just have this memory of like you and I just like sharing waves, splitting waves all the time. And I always like looked up to you at that time.
Who's older? Am I or you?
You're older.
I'm older?
Yeah, I'm 45.
I look better than you.
I don't have any hair.
I know. Where'd it go?
But you know what? Like you're the one that's lived probably a more radical life. You should look older.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel it, for sure. I feel it.
Like your life has gone like full zigzags.
Yep. I think I was, I mean, going back to when we were Groms and riding old school longboards, not like the 2+1s. They're so easy to come by. I had my first board, which I got a longboard shortly after. Yeah. My first board was a 510 Cyclone, a Jeff Bushman.
Whoa.
Dude, super like elfed out, rocker, crazy. This is probably 1990-ish.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna rip, and I was skateboarding a ton. And I was like, I couldn't catch a cold on that wave. And I grew up at the beach, so like I kind of understood the paddling, or I thought I did. And I remember going to Lincoln one day with my parents and seeing, you remember Ira?
Oh, yeah, I remember Ira.
So, and seeing Ira on an old school log, and it's like, this fat fuck is catching every wave. Like some waves he didn't even paddle for and he caught him. Or that's how I remember it. And I'm like, Dad, what the fuck is this guy doing? And he's like, that guy's catching every wave. And I was like, oh, like, dude, I got it. That. Man, I got it. And so it's like, I got to dump this shitty, and by no means was the board shitty. No. And I think I would kill to get that board back now.
Of course.
Because it was probably made in the late 80s, so it probably had some decent beef to it.
Yeah.
But I just remember it just being so hard. So go on Newsday Classifieds, and I found a Dewey Weber.
Wow.
Like a 7-stringer D-fin that was shaped by Iggy.
No way.
Yeah, and the guy was like, I got it. Where did he get it? At Tent City. He got it at Tent City. He was the original owner, and he's like, I've had it in my basement for 25 years. He's like, dude, you gonna like ride it? And I was like, yeah, totally. And he's like, all right, give me $85. It's yours. Way. And I was like, great. And next day I was like, go to the beach. And I was like, you want to sell that board? And I was like, oh, I must have gotten a good one.
He's like, I'll give you $200 for it. You're like, sweet. Totally. I just doubled my profit.
No,
all right.
Suck it, Surf and Bagel. I'm not giving you this board. I must be onto something. And then I would say, so probably the next year, I would have got my license, and that's probably when I started surfing Lido a lot more.
Yeah.
Because you could go through the hole in the fence at the towers.
Exactly. That was the time when we could sneak through.
Yeah, park over there and just cut through the hole in the fence, and we would all surf right around there.
How funny was it when they started like putting glass on the fence and everything, broken glass to try to prevent, and they were trying to do all these things.
And inevitably, the next one would be like, oh, there's a new hole in the fence. Yeah. It's like 5 feet away from the old hole.
And it was like everyone did it. Like my stepdad did it. We did it. Like it wasn't like an age thing.
Oh, no. I mean, I feel like that hole in the fence has been there since the 60s. Like that's how like everyone knew about it. My friend's dad went off to Vietnam, and he had sick boards from the 60s. He came back, and then he took us to surf there, probably the year before, so 89. Yeah. He knew about the hole in the fence. We went for bagels after that. It was awesome. You're not paying to get on the beach. Fuck you.
But, or remember, like, even when they were charged, when it was $5 to get on the beach in Long Beach, and you just walk by the kids at the stand, and they'd be like, you got to pay $5. You're like, I know. And you just keep walking, and like, no one would do anything.
Run down to the beach as fast as you can. Dude, can I grab your pass for a second? Here's my pass. I told you I had it. They're like, dude, I just like, no, that's not what happened.
or you do the jump off the boardwalk and rush to the water.
Yep.
Now cops would tase you and fucking beat the shit out of you like in New Jersey.
Yeah. Yep.
Now it's $20 to get on, so something like that.
I think it would be hard to get away with the stuff we got away with now.
Oh gosh, yeah. You could never do that.
Yeah. I don't think you could do a hodeo.
No. Let me ask, like, do you like? Then when you went to like a pretty good university, right?
Yeah, like I went to University of
Wilmington.
Wilmington,
right? Yeah. For business, right?
No,
what was that?
Just general. And I think the year I graduated, Surfer Magazine it was like a list of colleges, like the top 10 surf schools, and it was East and West Coast. So. Yeah. And UNCW was on the list. I think maybe even LIU was on the list, even the Southampton one. It was like, if you want to freeze your nuts off and kind of get winter surf, that's an option for you. And I was like, man.
I knew South A. Regina was for Rhode Island. I was like, that was about it.
Yeah, so Wilmington popped up. It had it, and then there was whatever, Flagler or whatever it is in Florida. Yeah. And I was like, man, I want to go check it out then. It looks cool. We went down. My dad drove me down. It was awesome. We got down there, and a guy from Boston, like the first minute we drive up, a guy's taking a boogie board out of the car. And I was like, what were you surfing? He's like, yeah, it's pretty fun. And I was like, Dad, we didn't bring boards. And he's like, well, we're doing this mega road trip, check out all these schools. And I was like, he's like, oh, you want to come check out my room? And I was like, yeah, totally. Like, we're going to take the tour of the school the next day. And, they're like super cool. And he's like telling us about everything and where to go to the beach. And I was just like, I was just like, this is awesome. And he's like, and there's a surf club. And I was like, the school has a surf club? And he's like, there's a surf team. And I was like, there's a surf team? And I was like, Dad. And he's like, and there's ultimate frisbee. And I was like, oh my God.
I died and got to heaven.
And I was like, did they play lacrosse? He's like, no. And I was like, perfect. So, yeah.
Fuck lacrosse. No, I'm just kidding.
No, to each their own. So yeah, UNCW is awesome. And it was just like
I remember you going away to school and then coming back, and it was like you unlocked a surfing superpower.
Totally.
And I feel like you progressed dramatically in that time frame. Like you were, no offense, you were a decent surfer.
Oh no, I sucked. But I was for sure just a beginner. And I remember going to school and being like, I'm gonna oh, sure, I may not
study.
But I'm going to fucking graduate in surfing, and I'm going to just latch on to from the history of it to the competitive aspect of it. And I was super lucky to have a great group of peers that were much better surfers and skateboarders, too.
Yeah.
So I think the jump off, or what made everything change surfing wise, was there was a bowl in Hampstead just outside of Wilmington, a small bowl, like 3.5 feet deep, and so easy to rip. And then right outside of one of the dorms, I think Galloway, we had a red curb, like painted like 26 layers of paint on like a gradual slope, and we waxed the hell out of it. And we would we learned to pump the skateboard and go up and do like these mega slashes and slappies, and like some guys would do like reverts on it. And we go.
You were surf skating before surf skating became a coaching tool.
Yes, I was gay before it was gay. Oh, that's so not politically correct.
Well, we don't mean it in the way that you think it is.
Totally.
No,
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
So, and then we go down to, all the boys go down to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And it was like my first surf trip, and I took some fun shapes down there with me, and like probably a couple of different years of guys, and we're all staying in different places, but we're getting together and surf. We're knocking back beers at pools one day, and I was like talking to one of my buddies, and I was like, dude, do you see how rippable that left is at pools? I was like, I could go out on a shortboard and just fucking smash that lip.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't shortboard. And I was thinking, he's kind of got me on that one. I was like, yeah, I definitely have not shortboarded.
But I've been skateboarding
and I was
a
like,
lot.
Man, I've been surfing my balls off. I'm riding this 7.2 really well right now. I'm skating a ton. And I was like, yeah, let me borrow your board. I was like, if I nail that section, you got to buy beers for everyone tonight.
Nice.
And he's like, if you flail, you got to buy beers the rest of the trip.
And
I was like, there's only like 3 days left of the trip. And I was like, but I definitely felt like I was feeling it.
Yeah.
And I remember go out, I was like, first wave, didn't really have that section I wanted. Next wave, I got like a little pump, and I came off the bottom. I was like, holy shit. I literally feel like I'm skateboarding right now. And I was like, just look for where you do that carve in the bowl. And just nail it. And that was it. Bang, little like off the lip, solid little bit of spray, came down with it, stuck it.
Free beers for
I was like,
everyone.
Suck it. I was like, I want shots with my beers. So yeah, and that really kind of like was like a light bulb. Like, oh man, I can shortboard. And then I want to say like that. So that was probably in like February of whatever year that was, 94,
Yeah.
probably. And came home that summer, which was a really good hurricane. 95, 96 were epic hurricane years for us. And John Schultz gave me, I want to say it was a caster, double wing pin, twin fin with the channel through the bottom. And he's like, you want to try this thing out? I was like, man, this thing looks pretty sick. And it's like super thick, like almost 3 inches thick, minimal rocker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I rode those wing pin twin fins with that channel through it. Like any old one I would find, a Natural Art, an MTB, whatever it was, ride it till I just killed it. And everyone's like, dude, those boards are such shit. I like fast forward. I go to
this is glass slipper era too.
Oh yeah.
I mean anything deviating from like high rock or potato chips, like just everyone was gonna make fun of you.
Totally. And but me coming from just always riding old equipment and never giving a fuck what other people thought about my surfing, because it wasn't like, oh man, I'm out to rip and I'm about to score chicks from my surfing. I was like, I just want to get a fucking barrel and be left alone.
Yeah.
I march a beat of my own drummer. And I just always found that for East Coast, that stubby, thick wing pin with the channel so you could get a little extra spurt. And you look at old videos like Greg Mungle and those guys, it just absolutely destroying those boards. And then fast forward, it's 97, 98. I'm at the Rehabilitation in Costa Rica with Toby Smith. And now I have Chronic Keith shaping me those twin fin copies. And we meet Joel Tudor for the first time. And he's like, that board is such a piece of shit. And I was like, I'm fine, but they rip.
Yeah.
And now
look now.
Every single fucking shaper has got their wing pin twin fin with at least one channel through it. If
Only
not,
took around 20-something years.
No, nobody listens to Smokey.
Wait, have you always had that affinity for like older equipment and that type of throwback aesthetic? Like even before surfing, like I remember you had longer hair even from a young age. Like you were kind of hippie
I think
vibes.
I wouldn't even say hippie, but like, you know, my first car was...
You listen to the Grateful Dead and Fish.
A little bit, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
At the time, it was cool. It was
sort of, some things you regret more than others. But no, I always was into old stuff. So like my first car when I was 17 was a 54 Dodge. And it's like... it's a couple of things. One, they're easy as heck to work on. Old cars, they don't got computers.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Two, you can kind of beat the shit out of them, and they still hold up real well. They're steel. They're well made, and it goes the same with the older boards. At some point in the 90s, it just became getting it as light as possible, as lightweight as possible, as lightly glassed as possible, and it became like surfboards were disposable. And I always had like the heavier, I didn't like that. I was like, man, I just dented my brand new whatever. I feel like I surf kind of heavy footed.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I was like at the peak of my shortboarding, I had to go on a high performance anything, and I would just snap those boards and like go like, oh, my buddy will want to try my board. He's like, dude, you can ride mine. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna fucking snap your board in a second. I was like, I'll just let you try mine. And they're like, dude, did you just put the biggest dent in my board? And I was like, man, I was just trying to duck dive. I wasn't even a turn.
God help you if you had one of Schultz's boards then, duck diving. You gotta use your feet. Can't use your knees.
No.
He'll fucking yell at you. Did it like?
So I think the other thing, was that I didn't have much growing up in Malvern. There was no standout surfer.
Yeah.
Or not even in any town close. We were probably maybe till you got to Oceanside or something like that.
Mike Matchmer in Rockville Center, some could argue.
Totally.
A couple of RVC guys, but
it would have
for the
been,
most part.
he would have been younger than me, and I was not really in that group.
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot of surf shops, and I guess I stumbled upon Atlantic Beach Surf Shop, Tom Senna.
Yeah.
And this is in the late 80s, early 90s. They did VHS. You could rent a surf movie from them. Keep it for a day, keep it for a week. It was the same price. However, just bring it back.
Yeah.
And so you're watching some Sargis flicks, and then all of a sudden I was like, man, look at all the Bruce Brown films you have. Man, let me get into this. And I'm just watching all these old surf movies, and I'm like, oh man, like this guy, he catches all the waves, he double arm paddles. I'm gonna start double arm paddling. And then like get to Wilmington, they're like, what's with the fucking double arm paddle? I was like, man, Robert August did an Endless Summer. It worked. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, double arm paddle. And I was like, I don't know. Is that not how you do it? And they're like, no, you kook. And I was like, all right. I was like, so wait, what are you saying? It's one. Yeah, all right. Yeah, whatever. But I think that so watching all those old surf movies and really realizing that style is just as important as like your. Yeah, I mean, think about how many people we could talk about who are like, oh, they could, like, remember that person could stick in air, and then you're like, but I fucking hated to watch him surf.
Yeah.
Not mentioning any names whatsoever.
No names, but there were people who could do all the maneuvers, but couldn't
style.
Just look awful, especially it became such a problem with people from like the 90s who grew up surfing in the 90s because they went straight onto like a potato chip to learn, and then they overcompensated and got a Pooh Man stance,
Or how many guys just rolled down the window to get going.
Yeah.
Just winding that back arm.
Well, I still do pet the cat.
Oh, you do?
Oh, I'm a cat petter. I mean, I have cats now too, so I really have gotten good at it.
Yeah, you perfected the skill then.
Yeah, but that's a Charles Bernowich influence.
Absolutely.
For our listeners, Charles Bernowich is a legendary Long Beach ripper.
Shortboard, longboard, everything.
Yeah,
definitely one of the guys that I grew up with. Style and performance, and then
he was like our Fonz. To me, he was like he would rock up like from his job, white T-shirt, jeans, cuffs on the pants.
Just finishing off the garbage truck.
Yeah,
he was. What the hell was that?
He was air conditioner. He repairs he did, and
I remember the Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez movie.
Oh
surfers and garbage men.
Yes.
That was Charlie. They were just like they come with his coveralls to the beach. Yeah, Men at Work.
That was
come to the coveralls with his
Yeah.
beach and his board, and you're like, oh man, get out of the water. He's gonna put a show on.
Yeah.
And his nephew Al Rip.
Rip, Larry Herrick.
Totally. Who moved to Wilmington.
I know.
Yeah.
I keep in touch with him.
No kidding.
Message with him
Awesome.
once in a while.
Yeah.
He'll like to hear this.
He's friends with all the guys that I went to school with. Yeah.
That's funny.
He's part of that circle for sure now. They're all like crazy watermen, like into everything.
So you like what I find interesting, like, did you have, like, when you left the university, did you know what you were going to do? Or were you like, I'm just going to surf, I'm going to travel, I'm going to, just kind of do whatever? Like, because you kind of went into finance and like.
Yeah, I let's see.
Give us the career's trajectory
Totally.
here.
So left Wilmington, went to Costa Rica for 4 months with a couple of my buddies, came back, had no idea what I was going to do. Got a job selling glass out of Red Hook, Brooklyn, that my dad helped me out with, like kind of glass like this for studio spaces and architectural.
Oh, so you would interact with now Flip then, who's
a little bit. I don't think I think my interactions with him were not of that sort. But it didn't work out, and I was competing. I was competing doing the longboard and the short and some shortboard stuff with like the unsounds And then I got invited to do the Red Bull cold waters and all that.
When did that come to become a realization for you? Like, oh, I can kind of compete on like a higher level.
I could do 5 turns. And I was like,
really well.
Where it's just like I could see that all of a sudden I could link up turns, and I would be watching other people who said they surf competitively, and I felt like I surfed to their level.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit better. And it was fun for me to kind of stick it to everyone and stay true to myself and just ride the equipment I wanted to ride.
Yeah.
And go do it in a quote unquote, pro, whatever, or an East Coast pro contest. Pro-am, sure. And, that was at that same time, that's when Tom Curran was getting off of shortboards and more riding everything else. And I felt like that was like a little, okay, I'm not like the only one who thinks like there's more to surfboards than just like your 6-foot thruster.
Well, it's funny, like collectively, the surf world kind of started circling back around to that equipment, right? Like you have Curran, Derek Hine.
Yep.
You have Kidman, Litmus, then you have Thomas Campbell, Joel. You know, it's like interesting how all that kind of around the same time.
Yeah, what was that?
Seedling.
No, the one in Australia. The one
Litmus.
Slater, Joel Tudor, and all them are staying in the house together.
Oh, Shelter.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, I get it. Here's Donovan, and he can go blow out that 6.0, and then he's gonna go ride a 6.7 and do the most butter bottom turn, and you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Which is better? That bottom turn he just did that was like steezy and set up a perfect barrel, or that one turn that there's no wave left?
Yeah.
He just pumped and just bang. And you're like, well, I like to draw out a better line, and I want to do it clean. I don't want, and I don't need to make it look all spazzy. And if it'll win me something, it'll win me something, or maybe it gets me a little. I don't even know. Because I wasn't seeking like a ton of recognition. I just wanted to stick it to everyone and be like, I can totally spank you on a wing pin twin fin that you're just going to be like angry and cursing everything. And I remember one of the finals or semifinals of one of the Unsound Pros. I'm kind of awestruck who I like drew, and it's like Dean Randazzo and some hot
Adam Veers.
So, some guy I had drawn him. Yeah, gosh, and maybe Danny Melhado.
Danny Melhado. Wow, that's a name.
And like we're all standing around and like we're getting our jerseys or something, and Dean turns to Danny and he's like, "Who the fuck is Justin Schwartz?" And I'm like, I look over and I'm like, that'd be me.
That would be me.
I'm just gonna
paddle out on my shingle fin here.
Do you like my twin fin? It says fuck on one side of the fin and you on the other. Because if you don't like it, well, there you go. And I just held to it. So it sometimes it would work in my favor, and other times, like I remember one of the Red Bull where you got to go. Yeah, you got to go to Nova Scotia.
Yeah,
and it was down in Jersey, and I made it to the final, and it was like the top 2 guys go, and I paddled out on my longboard in the final.
They must have pissed everyone
Jack
off.
was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, it went from 8 foot this morning to it's like 2 foot, and just like." Mediocre at best. I was like, I know this is supposed to be a big wave, whatever, but there's no rule. And he was like, Justin, don't do it. And I was like, I don't care.
You're like, if Dave Parmenter can do it in the OP Pro, I could do it here.
And I didn't care, And I was like, this is the right board for the wave, period. And then like halfway through, I got the twin fin and caught like 5 more waves on the twin fin. And he's like, no way. I was like, no way what? He's like, I'm just not, you're not going. And I was like, dude, you're telling me I didn't come in at least second? He said, I'm telling you, you're not going.
Damn.
And I was like, all right. So, sometimes it was either a good one or it just bit you in the ass.
Well, did you feel like outside of like that inner surf clique, like of the Alberts, the Larrys, the Charles, like all the really good surfers, and then you're kind of like riding something totally different. Did you feel like that there was a resistance to what you were doing, and would you get a lot of
hated me. Hated me.
It wasn't because you back paddled?
Oh, yeah, probably that too. But I mean, God, I don't know how long Larry and I hated each other for. I mean, I would, if I saw him, same with Eric.
Yeah.
Eric Eichen,
Yeah.
the same way. And it just was, I ate a lot of fucking crow,
Yeah.
and just didn't, I think the only one of that group, so that'd be like the Lido Surf and Sport Sensations.
Yes.
We'll call it
yes.
that.
Yes.
That,
/ sea level too.
Totally. And so like this would be before I even learned how to surf. I'd go to Sensations in Oceanside. I'd be like, oh my God, like there's Gary. He looks so fucking cool with his long hair, and I bet he must like whatever. And so of that whole group, I think the only two that were accepting of it right away were Brian Walsh and Dave Wan.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And Dave didn't.
Dave, I'm kind of surprised. Actually,
he's just like, well, fuck. If you surf good, you surf good.
Yeah.
I don't get your boards are stupid.
Because I've never seen Dave on anything other than a shortboard.
No. But he's got a sick. He appreciates the history of surfing, and he's got a sick collection of boards that he doesn't really talk about.
He also has a sick comic book collection.
He does.
Yeah. It's awesome.
He'll talk your ear up about.
I've been trying, man.
Yeah. So I think you had the old crew in Long Beach who would ride anything.
Yeah.
And then you had the guys who were just a little bit older than me who would only ride just the high performance thrusters.
Bill Tynan, Chris Fay, Charles Bernowich, like just dropping some names here for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
Doug.
Oh man, Doug Sudermeister. Yeah.
Totally. And then you had guys like Kevin Symes, who was like, oh man, that guy's a little older than me, and he's sticking to the old school logs and not giving a shit. And then as I got a little bit older, Danny McDonough and Jay and all them, Larry all started riding proper logs, and you could see like, all right, things are changing.
Yeah.
And you could see it in the lineup too. It just, I think at a certain point, we all realized we're not going to ride Kelly Slater, Elf Sticks on East Coast. It just doesn't happen. And then the one day that it is good enough for a board like that, you're like, how do I make this board work? Instead of like being on a board that you could ride from 1 foot to 6 foot.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how did you get invited to the Rabbit Cay Kai event in Costa Rica? Like that's crazy.
I don't even know.
Like
I used Toby and I, God, I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you. And I remember Toby being like, we're doing this. And I was like, we are?
Yeah, like the only ones from New York representing at the time.
Yeah.
Not even Tony Caramonico went to that at the time, I think. No?
He was at the Greg Knoll.
Yeah, the Greg Knoll
at the
earlier.
It was at Boca Barranca as well. That was like 3 years before. I want to say it was Toby, myself, and I want to say Mikey DeTemple.
Oh.
But at that point, he was living in Florida.
Yeah, he wasn't a real proper... He was born in New York.
He was born in New York, but we all know you're from Florida, Mike. No, much love for Mike. But yeah, I remember, and he would have been so much, he was so much younger than us.
Yeah.
And it was, given my affinity for the history of surfing, to go down to that contest when every 60s surfer, every surfer that you grew up with, all these fucking movies that I'd watched growing up, from Rabbit Cay Kai to Corky Carroll to Greg Knoll,
Robert August,
everybody, and it was so cool because it was a competition, but like after the competition, Robert August would be like, "You want to come and have dinner with us?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And it'd be like everyone
Yeah.
Everyone, and then learning, like L.J. Richards is like Ed Dale Dobson, and they're all competing and murdering it, and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna get put out by some old fuck. I'm not even gonna make it through heat because I didn't realize these legends are here and how hard they rep. And like Bill and Shapers too. Bill Stewart was there. Takayama was there with Joel.
Wow.
And it was an amazing experience. And there were guys, any who's who of longboard surfing from that era was at that contest. Yeah, like the Japanese guys, the Australian guys, the guys from Hawaii. Bonga Perkins was staying in the room next to us with Dino Miranda.
Wow.
And it was fucking awesome. And we're walking down the hallway. It's Toby and I, and we're walking to our room. And oh my God, Joel Tudor passes us, and he's with Josh Baxter. And I just
love his surfing.
Dude, I look at Toby and I kind of fucking give him an elbow, and like Joel turns to Josh and he's like, "Yo, did you hear these guys from New York brought a bong down with them?" And I look at Toby and I was like, "Dude, that's us.
They're talking about us.
And Toby goes, "That's us." And they're like, "Oh, dude, we'll be in your room in 5 minutes." And that was it. That's
how you became good friends with Joel Tudor.
Yeah, lifelong friendships, totally. And it's so funny because in traveling, Toby or myself, we'll run into those guys.
Yeah.
And we always still laugh about sitting in that room the first time, and it's like 3 dudes from Australia, a guy from France, this guy from Japan who's like 8 foot tall, all these dudes from California. And we probably stayed in the room for like 5 hours just talking story, laughing our asses off. It was, that's how you make lifelong friends.
You must have learned so much about surf history by just sheer osmosis being around it for those types of events.
And like I said, when the opportunity came, Toby and I get invited to go have dinner with someone, and you knew, like, oh, they're just going to talk story all night. And you just sit there, keep your mouth shut, and just, oh, is that really how it, like, you, no, let me tell you how it actually happened, because that's total bullshit. And I think
we didn't really discover Cape St. Francis,
right. Let me tell you how it played out in the movie versus how long we actually sat there and waited for that fucking wave to. And so I think all the back history is so interesting, and I try to make myself like an encyclopedia of the history of surfing, like Matt Warshaw. I've read that frickin'
Sunday Joint
encyclopedia of surfing. I've read it back and forth and like waited for him to update it, like knowing the first one and like reading it and going, that's not right.
Yeah,
I know. I don't know how to reach this guy to tell him, but I already know, matter of fact, that is not correct. And then like the updated version, and you'd see something removed from it, and you're like, told you.
Doesn't that feel good when you're like, I just got one over on the encyclopedia.
I know the history.
Yeah.
So little like how certain logos come about, or how businesses were formed, or whatever,
or fell apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the best stories.
Yeah, for sure. The Tom Parish is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, give our listeners a little bit. Like I'm very familiar with his story and his history, but I'm curious, like your perspective on that.
I mean, the long story short of, so in addition to Tom being like one of the best shapers
ever,
the lightning bolt guy, Jeff Hackman's, him and Tom made the most amazing sunset boards and surfing, still to this day. Tom was the original investor in Quicksilver Hawaii, and ended up getting fucked, big time. And like the contract was pretty cut and dry, and even with that, they were like, "Yo, you're out. It doesn't matter what the contract says. This is what we're doing." And he's like, "Yeah, but I have a contract with you guys," and that made him go to law school.
Yeah, and he became a lawyer.
And he became a lawyer to be like, "I'm never gonna fucking let that happen again."
Never putting myself in that position again.
Totally. And it's a great, in addition to getting boards from Tom, become great friends with him. So you get to hear, again, I love the backstories.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, let me tell you about like how this happened or how that happened. And there's always these, how a board design came about or how a fin ended up here or a wing ended up there. And, I dropped the board. And then I had to I couldn't undrop it. So now I'm like cutting the wing out like way far forward than I wanted to. And I'm like, I got to go with it. If not, we'll do it again tomorrow. And so I was competing.
How'd you place in that contest? You made it pretty far.
No, I think the farthest I only made it, I think that I only made it through a few rounds. Toby did well. Toby did really well.
Which is crazy because when we grew up surfing together, like he was just full on shortboard, ripper. And then all of a sudden I remember seeing his name at that contest. I'm like, Toby longboards? And now he's like...
And it was funny because certainly for the first round of that contest, if you either were completely traditional or you were surfing off the tail, high performance,
Joey Hawkins style,
like crazy shortboard ripping.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was Toby and this guy from Venezuela were both high performance, like surfing monkeys, super wide stands with big floaters and occasional cross step, but like lots of radical cutbacks. And then you had Joel and maybe Kevin Connolly who were just like tip time masters. And you're like, wow, this is
quite a contrast.
Yeah, this is going to go one of two directions, over the next few years. Unfortunately, it went more in the high performance direction, through the early 2000s. But it was so cool to see all that the differences. And then after doing all the contests locally and whatever else, I got sponsored by Local Motion or Hawaiian Style, whichever it was. And I want to go to Hawaii. I want to see what a real wave is like. I want to push myself. I had no interest in competing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go and scare the shit out of myself. And it felt like you needed a real proving ground. Or I felt like I did.
Yeah.
I don't know. To each their own.
Yeah.
And so my first trip to Hawaii, I went with Chronic Keith, Ollie.
Oh, Ollie Favada.
Yeah,
man.
And Matt. I forgot Matt's last name. And they were there for a couple of weeks when I got there. I had brought a few, like kind of gunnier, ready, whatever.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And it's like a 4-foot day at log cabins. It's like one of my first sessions, and it looks so heavy, and there's nobody out. And John Dana pulls up. You know John.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's out there with Big Brian, and they just randomly show up at
We're talking Brian Surratt?
No,
Brian? Oh.
Brian, Moku Brian.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
from
right.
New York.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So they roll up, and I'm like, "You guys going out?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "No." And John's like, "Come here." And he walks me down to the sand, like right where, and he puts his arm around me, and he's like, "You don't have to go out." And I was like, "No." He's like, "No, I'll go back to New York. I'll tell everyone what a fucking pussy you are." Just like Keith, Ollie, and Matt. And he's like, "Or fucking put your big boy pants on and fucking paddle out." He's like, "What's the worst that can happen?" I was like, "I die." And so I caught like a little shoulder, and I made it. And I was like, "Oh, okay. I think I can do this." Next wave, I wanted to be a little deeper. I paddle. I get sucked over the falls, slam sideways, and perforate my eardrum.
Oh.
And I was like, well,
wow.
Now I'm out. I'm like out. And John felt so bad. Like, he knew. He was like,
yeah.
I fucking just.
It's like, I just did that.
I did that. I ruined this.
Yeah.
I ruined this so bad for Justin. And the next day, he's like, so like, what did they say? I was like, they stay like at least 2 weeks out of the water, at least. And I'm like, I could pop my nose and like blow a bong hit out of my ear.
Oh.
That's how it was. Like there was a massive hole in my ear. It wasn't just like a little pinhole.
I've heard that. I've heard that sound.
Yeah, it was like you like whistle, like play different like songs out of it, and so he felt bad, and the next day he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to someone." He's like, "We just feel awful," and he's like, "Do you fish?" And I was like, "Nope." And he's like, "All right, well, we're gonna introduce you to Perry Dan."
I was gonna ask how you met Perry Dan.
I was like, "All right, who?" God, I think I know that name, and I'm like, "All right, oh man, I think Perry surfs for Local Motion."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right," so now I'm like, look through the catalog, and then I see a picture of him, and I was like, "Oh man." This guy's scary as hell.
Tell our listeners how terrifying Perry Dan can be.
He is he's huge. He's an incredible surfer, and he's just so intimidating.
Yeah.
Him and Johnny Boy just regulated from the 90s through the mid 2010s, something like that. I worked for Cito when I was in college, and had been on boats, knew I didn't get seasick.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you don't get seasick, you're good.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure? He's like, because it's really, really rocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, good to go. And that started a great relationship with Perry. I was a terrible fisherman, but I definitely learned a lot. We fished primarily tuna and mahi.
Yeah.
And it was just the two of us on the boat almost all the time.
What was he like? Is he a man of many words, or like
some depends?
Would he open up emotionally to you? You don't have to share his secrets. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, some things I definitely can't even. I wouldn't even begin to say. But yeah, he would definitely open up about things and tell because you're just like you got to stay awake. Yeah. You're leaving Haleiwa Harbor at 3 a.m. for the sun to come up at 6 a.m. So you have 3 hours in the dark. You're looking for turtles on the bow of the boat. You're trying to stay awake. So you're just talking about anything.
Wow.
Anything and everything. I'd be like, oh, did I ever tell you about this? And let me tell you about my dog did last night? Or, hey, can you tell me something? Tell me anything, Justin. Just tell me something. Oh, okay. He was like, that's an awful story.
In New York, we got these great bagels.
Man, bringing bagels and par-cooked pizza.
Yeah.
So like 3/4 cooked, so you'd finish it off once you got to Hawaii. Yeah, those were the days. This was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
So
you could bring all that stuff.
Bring whatever. You pretty much could bring whatever you wanted on the plane with you or without you. And that's all I'll say about that.
So then you left and then went back to Hawaii? Like, what happened in between? Because you ended up living there for a couple of years, yeah?
Yep, I was there until, I was there a couple of years. I worked at Haleiwa Joe's, washing dishes, which was epic. Joe Lazar is the owner there, epic charger. And you'd have guys, like Dave Cantrell was a waiter.
Oh,
and you're just like, damn. Legend. He's like, yeah, you want to come surf Rocky Point with me? I'm like, abs. Do I? Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Do I?
Yeah. And you Kelly Slater would come in and sit at the bar or what? You'd be like, oh God. I remember Fast Eddie coming in the kitchen one day and just taking food, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And they're like, don't ever. You just let him do.
Just let him take what he wants.
All right, and you just like you saw the front of house and back of house and how different people got treated different. Certain pros were like treated like gods, and other pros were like, if you want to shit in his food, go right ahead.
Here's Ian Cairns spitting his food.
Exactly.
My brother worked at the health food place, in like 98, 99.
Totally.
And I remember he would Slater would come in and order like the hummus plate and then wouldn't finish it. My brother would be like, maybe there's like superpowers in this hummus. And he would eat like the leftovers basically of Slater.
Did he get it?
Definitely not.
Nothing.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Does he have hair?
He is losing it.
So maybe he got that from Slater.
He did get yelled at by Poncho Sullivan once. He thought he was out. He had like a Bobby Owens Patagonia gun, back in like the late 90s when he was doing it. and he's surfing sunset, and he got a wave, and he didn't see anyone behind him or anything. And he's sitting there, and he sees Pancho paddling up to him, and he's like, Pancho is paddling up to me. Maybe he wants to talk to me about my board or something. And then he's like, I think you dropped in on me on that. And he's like, no, I don't think I did. And he's like, yeah, I think you did. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, shit.
And Pancho's a beast of a human. Yeah. Some of those guys are just, I'm small. Yeah. So it was always so intimidating.
But you worked very well in between. Like, you were able to kind of finagle.
Yeah, totally. I think being hooked up with Perry was a godsend, because if he said, hey, you want to come surf, is just, you pick off whatever wave you want. He'd tell you which ones to go. If he's telling you to go A, you better fucking go, and everyone else will hold back, because I told him to go. Don't you go on him. And like Perry would always look for the rights. Yeah. So I knew, like, if I just sat next to him, paddled just a little bit deeper, and people would be like, yo, don't paddle deeper than Perry. He will fucking kill you. And Perry would be like, Sheeby, where are you going right now? I'm like, brother, I'm just going left.
I'm going left.
And he's like, you better not look at that right. Do what you're doing. I was like, no, I promise. I just go left. So, yeah, at Velzy, at V-Land, or at Rocky Point, that was, there's certain waves where the left was just as good as the right. Yeah. But everyone always, for some reason, eyed the right. And you're like, man.
Be like, I'm going to backyards. You can have sunset.
Totally. Exactly.
So we met in Hawaii again.
We did.
It was funny. Like, it was super coincidence. Like, I was in Strong Current, I think. And all of a sudden, I see Justin walk in with just road rash all up and down the side of his body.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
I'm like,
Brad Gerlach.
Yeah, really? Is that who did that?
No, it was the remember his
carved skateboard,
the carve or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he was out there with his dad and dropped off one of the carved to demo, and it had sat in the shop for probably a month or so, and he came in the shop and he's like, did anyone try it? And we're like, no. Like, the board weighs like 90 pounds. Yeah. It's super weird. Like, you try to ride it on flat ground and it doesn't do anything. You can't pump it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm going to take the board back.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, wait.
Let me try it.
So we get it up. We go up top. We go up Pupukea. And like all the way up at the top. And the first run was just a short run. And you're like, man, you could take it on the dirt. You can kind of
because it had big inflatable tires. So
you're like, all right, if I'm going a little too fast, I go up on the lawn, do a little slash. I'll come back on to the pavement. And I'm going kind of where you're making the huge turn to go towards Food Land. Mm-hmm. So where you're bombing. And I'm like, this is where I'm gonna stop. And I know I need like the clearance to get up on the lawn on the other side before I go to bomb it. And a car comes up.
Oh shit!
Come in the opposite direction. I'm like, oh shit! I can't turn. And I'm like, all right, let me. It's like, this is my oh shit face and fuck. And so in addition to having those big rubber slick tires, it was spring loaded. Oh. The trucks were spring loaded. So I said, all right, let me try to like slide and give it a little slide and see if I can slow myself down. Hey, I want to stop. I don't want to try to bomb. I know I'm not good enough. And I try to like slide it out. And the thing torques me with the springs, and I go from sliding, and it just throws me over the other side. And my buddies are behind me videotaping because we want to show Brad. Like,
I want that footage
that we
now.
Filmed the carve. Duncan Campbell has it.
Oh man, I gotta get that.
He's like, I've watched that. This was back then. He's like, we watched that like 30,000 times. Just I go off the front. I go over the. I go from heel side to get dumped toe edge, and I hit so hard that I bounce off the asphalt, and I go up like 7 feet in the air. I still have all my clothes intact at that point. And then I hit again, and as soon as I hit, it just ripped the shirt, like just ripped it right off of me. And I bounce again, I fall down again, boom, board shorts, fucking shorts right off of me. And I'm naked, covered head to toe, and just the worst road rash ever. And I'm going into like a week before my 25th birthday or something like that. And yeah, just like totally fucked up. And yeah, that's probably right. That's when I
right
saw
when
you.
I saw you.
Totally.
And then a few weeks later or a month later, you're swimming, you're surfing off, I think the west side.
Not even a month later.
You're surfing on the west side. We won't say where.
Yeah.
And a boat runs you over.
Yeah. That happened. That happened. So this, yeah. We're surfing early. So it's South Swell. So it's July, end of July. I say it was July 22nd. But we're surfing, the four of us, and we're paddling out. It was solid, like 6 foot, South Swell. And the wave, given the size, it breaks pretty far off the beach.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see it, but it's dawn, and we're paddling out. And I think preface this with the year prior, Al Prisco was on a boat going through Point Lookout, Jones Inlet.
Yeah.
And he was on the bow of the boat, hit some chop, and he fell off the bow of the boat and got run over by the boat.
I remember that.
And he got tangled up in the prop and got fucked up, like near death.
Yeah.
Just
he didn't surf for ages.
Yeah, no. He, like chunks out of his bones, like really, really. And I remember thinking, like, God damn it. How do you, like, not try to dive under the boat? And obviously in the instance, like, you're thinking, like, dude, I would have done this and I would have done that. But obviously, in the instant that it happens, you may not know anything.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, now we're surfing, we're way outside, and we're kind of like paddling out as like a square.
Yeah. And
I'd be like the bottom left corner of the square. So 2 of us are in the back, 2 of us are in the front. And we're probably 3/4 of the way out, and you faintly hear this boing, 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 boing. And I'm like, having worked on a fishing boat already, I'm like thinking, that sounds like a boat coming through the lineup. But no way, because the surf's solid.
Yeah.
And like now you can see the guy, and we're not far from the fishing harbor.
Yeah.
And in his mind, it's ass crack of dawn. There's not going to be anyone in the water. I'm going to surf a wave to the harbor. And like he's coming, and like as he's getting closer to us, I'm starting to think he's got to see us. Like he's got to see the 2 guys in front.
Yeah.
He's got to see them. There's no way he's going to keep coming this way. And miraculously, he goes between Jay and Campbell.
Yeah.
And so they're in the front. And as soon as he goes between them, so say there's like 20 feet apart, 30 feet apart between the 2 of them, as soon as he realizes, holy shit, there's surfers in the water, he just turns the boat super hard to the beach to kind of go back out the lineup to like reset and get up farther outside. And now there's probably from that turn like about 40 feet of distance, and he's he turns it. He doesn't see the Eric or Alex, excuse me, Captain Alex, was that his name, right? Yeah. He doesn't see the 2 of us, and he guns it right at me, and I'm like, oh motherfucking God, like all that shit is about to happen right now. And I first fucking take my leash off. Yeah. And I was like, take my leash off. I got the leash off. I pushed the board away from me. And I'm like, is he going to come right at me? Is he going to hit the board? And this is all in like a split second. Oh my God, he's coming at me. And I'm like, all right, you got to clear the boat. You got to dive as deep and as fast as you can. Like you never got deeper in your whole life. And I dove and I got under. I could feel the boat coming over my back. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, the prop's going to come next. Yeah. And I feel like I'm pretty deep, and I give it one more kick down. to clear it, and I kicked my foot and I kicked the propeller. And I came up and I was like yelled for him to stop, and I was screaming like, "Oh, I'm done." And he looked back and just kept going.
He's like, I'm not sticking around for this. I got no license plate.
No, and like no, even guys knew who it was, and they're like, "Don't even. This is the West Side. It's like that's not how this is gonna happen." So yeah, I ended up kicking my foot into the prop, and it got me on my index toe.
Yeah.
So it cut my big toe, my index toe, and my middle toe, and it felt like I thought I'd lost the toes. And here's where it gets like gnarly. I'm like screaming, I'm fucked, and there's blood everywhere, and we're super far out, and by the grace of God, a wave comes, like I'm going in, and I catch the wave, and I'm just riding on my belly, flying. It's a solid
it's a big
day,
wave,
and I feel my toe flapping. And I'm like, oh my God, whatever's there, I'm gonna lose it because there's so much water. Maybe I should just fucking bite it off and keep it in my mouth. And I'm like going back and forth, like, because the wave's going forever, and I can feel it like kind of like just flap, like dangling. And I go straight. There's a channel. Fuck the channel. I'm going. I beach
over the reef,
over the reef. And as soon as I get on the reef, there's like some big West Side boys been fishing and drinking all night, and I'm like up on the reef with my one foot like a crab. Yeah, and I'm not gonna put my foot on this reef. No. I know exactly how dirty this is. Yeah, and we're like, oh, bro, that's not good.
Like, here, we got some ice for your toe.
Pick me up. Get me off this reef. I don't want to see it. Yeah. And he's like, it looks like a massacre. And I remember they put me in the back of a pickup, like one of the boys' pickups. Campbell comes, and they're like holding my foot up, like keep it elevated to try to stop the bleeding. And one of them's like, "Bro, do a tourniquet." And I'm like, "No fucking tourniquet, dude. No, call an ambulance." Yeah. And Campbell goes to hold my foot up, and he's like going in and out of consciousness. Shit. And it was just what a disaster. They told Campbell and Jay that I was going to Queens, and instead they took me to a clinic, Y-Night clinic, and it was like it's a scene out of Pulp Fiction. And I was like, they're like, "Do you want us to just cut the 3 toes off?" No. And I was like, "Well, can we save him?" And he was like, "Dude, not here." And he's like, "You need to be at Queens." And I was like, "I thought that's where they're taking me." He's like, "No, they're taking you here." Like the lights are flashing, and I'm like, "Dude, this is dirtier than the reef." Oh, don't. And he was like, "Look, I can clean you up." And this is pre-cell phone, so I had to wait for Jay and Campbell to get to Queens Hospital. Oh, God. Then for them to get the call to pick me up in the West Side, come back to West Side. And then by the time I got to Queens, they had ready for triage because they knew I was an amputee. Yeah. And it was like, "All right, so how bad is it?" And he's like, "Oh, that's my toe had turned gray at that point." Oh, God. And I guess what happened was the index toe got severed, and it was just hanging by the artery. Oh, God, so the bone was completely cut off.
Thank goodness the artery wasn't cut.
So and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna try to move it," and he's like, "If I move it this way, it's gonna line the toe back up, and we'll see if it changes color. Yeah, we know that we might have a chance of saving it. If it doesn't, we're just gonna have to take the toes off." And it's like, so morphine out the butt, and he's like, "Tell me when you're ready." And I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Great, you're ready." And I remember before I blacked out, he goes and he moves it, and just blood starts spraying everywhere. And he's like, "You're good." And I was like, "Dude," and that was it. I completely blacked out. I woke up, And it was like everything was done. He's like, I think that was a success. And he's like, where are your friends? And I was like, I think I sent them surfing. He's like, you're a good friend. I was like, I think it's really good. He's like, it's really good. And he's like, so like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll just wait for him. He's like, all right, we'll give you another shot of morphine. Blacked me out. And I woke up. Jay and Campbell were like, dude, you ready to go home? I was like, I'm ready to go home now.
And I have a lovely Polaroid of that toe.
Totally. That's where
day.
Yeah. I lost my toe and all you got was this lousy Polaroid. You know what? I did I got some free lunches from Cholos. I got definitely some sympathy from some of the girls. Like, girls
Cara Hemperly give you a nice little back rub and stuff.
Totally. Gosh, those were the days.
I'm curious, like, then, what's a surfer to do when they're in the mecca of surfing and they can't surf? And, like, what was your mindset after that? And I remember, like, you were saying, like, as before we left, like, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to you, actually. And I'm curious, like, what happens when you remove surfing from the place you went to for surfing, and what happens to your mindset?
So the way that the surgery went was he cut through some muscles and some, thankfully, some nerves. Yeah. So the healing process, because I had so much nerve damage, it wasn't all that painful. So like this is the tip of your toe. Yeah. And for a while you could be like this. Oh, and there'd be no feeling whatsoever. Like you could take a pin to it and I couldn't feel it. Take a pencil. And the doctor's like, this is what you're going to have to be really careful about, because you're going to think you can walk on it and you can't feel that you just ripped everything open. Oof. And he's like, so don't be a dummy and do anything too soon. It's a traumatic injury. Yeah. So I started to, just getting like stir crazy. Just can't do anything. Don't want to go to the beach and get sand in it and this and that. And finally he's like, if you want to like wrap it in a plastic bag and like you could kind of paddle around on a board. And he's like, you can't get it in the water because you're going to get it infected. There's too many things that can go wrong. It's like, but if you want to keep it out of the water and just start to paddle. I was like, oh my God, I could paddle. And my buddy from Australia who was there when I got into the accident had a prone paddleboard that was shaped by Joe Quigg. So an old board under his A-frame at Rocky Point. And he's like, man, I got this beat-ass fucking paddleboard. He's like, why don't you have at it? And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And I had that house right behind Waimea, on the Haleiwa side of Waimea Bay. So you could go from the back of the house right to whatever the hell that.
Was it like alligators right there?
It's north of alligators. It's like a random. It's seldom surfed. Yeah. Because it really rarely, it has to be huge for it to be even anything there. Yeah. So it's a great spot to embark on a paddleboard journey because it's always pretty flat. It wasn't rocky, like reefy. Yeah. So you go in and out. And I start, little by little, it's like, all right, I paddle across the bay. Because it was summertime. So based flat as could be. Oh, man, that was so beautiful. That was so cool. I paddled across the bay. Well, let me try to go farther out because you know how deep it gets so fast. Now you're in a couple 1,000 feet of water and you're like a mile out past the bay. And you're like, wow, this is awesome. And you're starting to, then your mind starts to be like, oh, it's pretty, I know how fishy it is too. And I'm like, oh, I should probably be closer to the beach or doing this with someone else. But I just started to really enjoy being on the water and the act of just paddling. And, go back to history and the famous quote from Jerry Lopez, surfing is 99% paddling and 1% is actually being on your feet and surfing. So, you're in the water and there's always this one dude who just catches everything. Yeah. Well, I guarantee that guy was either a swimmer or a paddler or did water polo or something. And he may not be the best surfer, or she, but I guarantee this person swam their ass off and knows the technique.
Yeah.
So my buddy, so I was at Waimea, my buddy lived at Rocky Point, and one day I was like, yo, I'm gonna meet you at your house for coffee and bong hits this morning. I'm gonna paddle. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna paddle it. And I was like, because your house is like just right off the beach. I'll leave the prone board right up on in the bush. I'll walk up to the house, we'll have coffee, and I'm gonna paddle home. And he's like, you are? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in like 45 minutes. This is like 3.5 mile paddle. Boom, I'm at his house, I'm having coffee. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I could paddle to Haleiwa. I could paddle to work. I could totally paddle to work, throw the board behind Haleiwa Joe's, and then paddle my way home. And so it just started to do more and more of like, well, all right, I paddle to Sunset. You know, I really want to paddle past Cavella and get up to Turtle Bay. And so
you're doing the whole 7 mile
miracle. And now you're
miracle.
just like, oh man, yeah, now I'm hitting it out. And people are like, were you at Turtle Bay yesterday? And I was like, no. It's like, I never go in there. They're like, no. Were you at Turtle Bay yet? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, man, did you see me paddle? And I was like, I paddle all the time. They're like, dude, do you like? I was like, every day. I was like, I love it. And so, yeah, that was it. I always, I just got more and more into it.
It's
because at summertime, it's what you do to be in the water. It's either you're spearfishing or you're paddleboarding, and it's that kind of predates the stand up.
Yeah.
So
this
that wasn't
like 2000, 2001.
Yeah, that wasn't on anyone's radar besides the Beach Boys and Waikiki, who were doing it to kind of like put a camera on their board and take pictures of the people who they were. But yeah, so yeah, the prone was amazing. And then it also was awesome because when I got the okay to start to surf again, I was ready in that. Yeah, it's like, man, I'm paddle ready. Yeah. And I was like, and I don't feel like the surfing aspect, which was just 1% of it anyway. So yeah, that, and that started a lifelong love of, pro and paddleboarding. And I'm more of the old school. I had one arm and then the next. I'm not
double arming on the knee.
I can't. I'm so terrible at it. And I see guys who are so good at the knee, like the deep knee stroke.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's not how I paddle.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the water all the time and I'm surfing all the time, I want to keep doing it like how I have been doing it. So it feels awkward to make that shift to the knee.
Well, the thing is also like you're paddling. This is waterproof headphones and iPads and all that shit. Yeah. Like it's just you in your brain, and like the only way to keep yourself focused is to focus on each stroke and perfecting that technique and getting it better, right?
Yep.
Like,
and I'm picking up on like the little nuances of the ocean currents, and like connecting wind swell versus ground swell, downwinders versus upwinders, and just enjoying being in nature, flying fish going over you, a pod of dolphins, a fin, you have no fucking clue what it was, and you're just like, that was a fin, huh, okay. So, and it's just, I think, and anyone, everyone wants to be a waterman or a waterwoman, and especially, it doesn't matter where you are. There's never surf all the time, and it's that opportunity for you to step back and say, okay, what else am I going to do to continue my pursuit of being in the water all the time?
Yeah.
So, I think I had perforated my eardrum when I was living in Hawaii, which I think I had told that story already. So I think that kind of put me out of the spearfishing like I wanted to, because it always messed with my ear when I'd go real deep, and to to get my equilibrium. It seemed really tough, and I was like, man, I want to get like these. I was fishing with Perry, and he was going down like 110 feet free diving.
Whoa!
And he was like the Hawaii free dive champion, like 6 years running, and had all these crazy stories of spearfishing with his son and everything like that. And I was like, man, dude, I'm like 30 feet, and I feel like my head's gonna explode.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I think that said, the breath training you got, and again, just the time in the water from that, and learning the currents that go underwater and what's underwater is huge, and people, I think people forget that, and they don't take the time to study that. Like, it's not just how the wave's breaking. Take a look at what's underneath the wave. Take a look at how the currents are going. I kind of like to sit there and hang out on the beach for a little bit, and everyone's like, you quit jerking off and get in the water. And I kind of just want to watch it for a minute.
Yeah.
So that once I'm out there, I'm not going where should I be? Oh, I should be here. I should be there. And you're kind of like a chicken without a head.
Yeah.
Take the 5 minutes. Get yourself a couple of deep breaths. Watch it, And then on the flat days, go paddle it, go dive it, and see what's underneath. And, that's why the wave always wants to break over here. Oh, and this, I get it. And this swell, there's really deep hole right here. So it always flattens out at this angle. I never realized that. So, like in Hawaii in the summer, everyone would dive the reefs that weren't completely covered with sand. And even seeing pipeline in the summer when it's halfway covered, you're like, fuck, it's treacherous. It's like, dude, it's flat. And I'm scared of these caves right now, and I get it. And no wonder people get so fucked up here.
Always digging out little Barneys out.
You can see teeth on the reef. Yeah. You can see teeth, and it's just like, oh my God. That's why, shout out to Eric Eichen.
Yeah.
His
dad gums. Exactly. He left his teeth there at Gums.
That's why they call it Gums.
Exactly. It's funny. Like when I was there with at the same time as you, my thing was I'd always just go diving at Shark's Cove. I would do the cave dives and just hold my breath, and I was lucky enough where I could, and it was probably I enjoyed that more than most of the surfing I did that summer. Yeah. That was the best thing, diving through the caves, just holding your breath, learning to stay calm, learning all the things you should be learning to do when you go surf.
Exactly.
And we don't really have that here where we grew up, hard to go cave diving off of Long Beach or Rockaway. But...
No, I mean there is some good spearfishing, yes, for sure.
Spearfishing, yes,
and some good free dive sites. There's a good group of surfers, Ball and Sam, and I mean a ton of guys who all are huge into it, and are crushing it. And again, that is opening up. There's so much time when it's flat. Those guys spearfished the whole fucking summer because it was flat and crystal clear waters all summer.
And they're in great shape for doing it.
Totally. Yep.
So you're paddling. How much longer did you hang on the North Shore then, after the accident?
Until the next accident.
Until the next accident, which was a car accident?
Yeah, that was the car accident. So that was Halloween. Which was funny because my health insurance kicked in for work at midnight, and the accident was 12:18.
Shut up!
That was crazy.
No way.
It was a really bad accident, and
do you remember what happened?
Yeah. We're coming back from partying, in maybe Waimanalo or something, and it had been raining. I had a 69 Dart, and it hit the curve in Cam Highway coming past Laniakea, and as soon as I went to step on the brake, the driver's side wheel locked up.
No.
Just one wheel. What? And I was like, fuck, dude, we're sliding. And we're spun out, and the side of the road, both the medians are sand.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, so the second I hit the sand, we just flipped.
Fuck.
And we did what's called a California roll. You know, there's a name for every car accident. When a car does a certain thing,
Yeah.
there's nothing new under the sun as far as what the car does. So the California roll, it goes side over side and end over end.
God.
Yeah.
Holy shit balls.
You surfers still can't do that, by the way. So yeah, it was really bad. The car was totaled. Both me and my friend were airlifted to Queens Hospital. He was pinned under the car, which was awful. I was pinned in the car, and the gear shift. I was impaled on the gear shift.
Oh.
So
What part of your body?
Went right impaled.
Oh,
like
in
right,
your chest area.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
So like I ate the steering wheel, and I kind of went into the windshield and rolled. As it rolled, it kind of like, so now I'm like on the steering wheel, and I can hear my buddy, and I was like, oh my God, this is, what the fuck happened? And I kicked out the windshield, got myself out, and within, I want to say it seemed like minutes. I can't tell you. And the first people there were Joel Tudor and Dino Miranda.
Shut up.
And I was like, no way. And they're like, oh, you're fucked. Like, this is so bad. You're so fucked up. And I was like, I didn't.
Wait, thanks, Joel.
I couldn't even assess how fucked up I was, and I just wanted make sure my friend was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like get help. You got to get, So, the fire department arrived. They got my buddy out from under the car right away, and they're like, he's okay. And I was like,
wow.
As soon as they said that, I collapsed.
Ooh.
I just went unconscious, and they were worried I broke my neck, and that the adrenaline was just keeping me going.
Yeah.
And once my friend was okay, that I just gave in. So I think I woke up once on the side of the helicopter. We're on the sides.
You didn't even get to see the view.
No, I missed it. And then I woke up again, was in Queens Hospital. So it was my second time in Queens Hospital in like fucking 5 months.
Came a regular.
Oh, they all knew me. And they're like, no, why are you back? What did you do this time?
Howley, it's a little dangerous for you here.
Serious. Like, take a sign. So they had me in a full body brace.
Holy shit.
So that's how I woke up. And then the doctor...
What goes through your head when you wake up in a full body brace? Like,
I gotta pee.
No catheter? They didn't...
No, nothing.
Shit.
I don't think they were... they just figured I would piss myself.
Yeah.
And the doctor... the trauma doctor who reattached my toe was at the hospital. And he's like, what the hell? And I was like, you got to take the body brace off me. Yeah. And he's like, we got to run more x-rays, CAT scans, and MRIs. I was like, I would tell you if something is broken in my neck or my back. No, I would know.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll tell you what's broken right now is all my ribs, my shoulder, and I said, something's really fucked up in my bicep. But I'm like, I'm still in I'm splayed out like Christ. Yeah. And that's how, and so my arms are out and everything's just plastic, top and bottom, all the way to around my crotch.
Shit.
And he's like, well, let me get the other doctors in here, and I'll tell them, I will get another. And I was like, you already did it. You know what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
don't continue to run these stupid tests right now.
Don't waste my insurance money.
I gotta pay.
My copay is not going to.
I gotta pay. And he's like, well, what do I? And he's like, you can't pay. I said, then I'm just gonna pay.
Yeah.
And I said, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he like kind of like helped me up, and so like I'm now like walking, and he's like, are you gonna be okay? I'm trying to get into the bathroom with him, and it's like a freaking comedy. And like I'm standing there, and I was like, I can't. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I
got stage fright.
No, because I had the thing on.
Yeah.
No, I had the thing on.
Yeah.
And my arms are out. I can't move. I can't pull the thing up. I'm just gonna pee all over the gown. And he's like, what? And I was like, I need more help. And he's like, I'm not. I was like, just take the gown off then. I was like, and it was like,
it's like, do you want me to hold it for you as well? You want me to shake it?
And then it was like out of that Dumb and Dumber, it was like a 10-minute pee. And he's like, really? And I was like, oh.
It was Austin Powers style.
It's so, the worst. And, you know, I was so thankful that both me and my friend walked away.
Did your friend have any injuries?
He punctured his lung.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And broke ribs too.
Right.
So we
but
both
no no. lasting
No.
Okay.
I think even his recovery time was a little bit quicker than mine.
Yeah.
I don't know, just because I just broke so many things.
Fuck.
And then so it took. And then I came home. I was just going to come home for a little bit. And it was, on the flight home, because it was already really messed up. On the flight home, I contracted Coxsackie virus.
Explain, because I'm not familiar with it.
Coxsackie virus is a virus that started in Coxsackie, New York. And go shout out Coxsackie.
Coxsackie.
So
what an unfortunate name.
Yeah, it's like a Legionnaires or something like that. Yeah, and so it was someone had it on the plane, and because my immune system was so shot,
that
I was just I would have got anything that was anyone had on that plane, and then so I was already beat up, and I was from 180 down to about 135 because I broke my jaw too, so my jaw wired shut. And then I came home, I contracted Coxsackie, I got down to 110.
Holy shit!
So and by the time it was all said and done, I was down 70 pounds. I looked like just nothing. I no muscle, no anything.
What does that do for you mentally?
It's the most demoralizing thing ever. I made my parents' life like a living hell when I was sick, stuck in the house. It took people a long time to even diagnose it. So because people were, I guess it's not a very common virus, and it sucked because you couldn't eat and your tongue bleeds.
Oh.
So you have these whatever.
Just blisters in your mouth kind of thing.
Slices.
Oh, paper cuts on your tongue?
Yeah.
Oh. Listeners, just imagine that for a second. Paper cuts on your tongue.
And just so you feel like you feel like you're salivating.
Yeah.
And you're not. It's just blood. And we could go to another doctor because we've been to a million already. And we're waiting on the doctor, and the nurse walks in, and she's like, stick out your tongue. And she's like, oh, you have Coxsackie. And I was like, I do? Oh, what the hell? She's like, my daughter had that. And I was like, what? She's like, no one. She's like, you're the only person I've ever seen who's had that.
Wow.
And I was like, thank you. So it was like, what do I do? She's like, oh, not much.
Not much, just wait it out.
And I was like, oh, God. And it's like one of those says, it was really demoralizing. Because I went from the strongest and fittest I'd ever been and feeling so mentally focused to take on anything. Yeah. And then from that to just being I'm not sure I'll make it to the bathroom, and I just feel so weak today. I don't even, and the recovery, like I said, it took a long time. And it was definitely with that baby steps to getting better. I had so back in New York, I had good friends, a good surf community. And they really, like every day you're back in the water, you're back, we're going to surf, we're surf. And that was awesome. And it just took a long time. And then fast forward, and I don't remember what year it was, but the first sea paddle.
Yeah. Around the New York, Manhattan. Yeah.
So that was raise money for surfers healing and autism awareness. I was already doing a good amount of work with surfers healing. Got invited to participate in the first paddle. Mike Becker made me a wicked prone board for that race. So shout out to Nature Shapes. That was the first prone, maybe the only one he's ever made. It was awesome.
Wow.
And so go to the race. And lo and behold, Joel Tudor is there doing the race, the paddle too.
Yeah.
And I see him, and his jaw just drops, and he's like white as a ghost. And he's like, I thought you were fucking dead. And he's like,
and you're like, thanks for checking in on me, Joel.
He's like, dude, we always talk about that, like seeing you on, like, dude, you were dead meat, dead, like roadkill. He's like, I can't believe. I was like, I'm here. I'm gonna fucking paddle around Manhattan with you right now. And he's like, and afterwards he's like, I can't believe it's you. I was like, and it was a big, because you almost take for granted the recovery once you're better, and you're kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But then people you hadn't seen in a long time and who saw you at your lowest moment, were like, holy shit, you were a dead man.
Makes you realize.
It does. And you need to. I started to, like, I'll be 50 this year. So that car accident happened when I was 20. Both accidents happened when I was 25 going into 26. So this would be
half your life away.
This will be my 24th bonus year.
Wow.
Yeah. So every so often I'll be like, these are my, like, every year is a bonus year, because I did everything I could at 26 to pretty much kill myself, and not in like a self-destructive way. Just bad luck, and just that's just how it goes. And that's a hard thing also to wrap your head around, is how does all this stuff keep happening to me, and how do you get yourself out of that? I'm never gonna. It's bad luck or no luck at all.
Well, what did you do mentally to keep yourself from slipping? Like I'm just gonna say, like, I remember I broke my foot really bad in Morocco, and like it kind of similar thing, like where it just got so fucked where when I got home, like the doctor said I may never walk again, may never surf again, all these things, and like and to go from like being so vigorous and so like full of yourself, and then to not only have this injury, but then to go home. Not just to like an independent home, but a home with your family. Yeah. Your parents are watching over you. I remember leaving, like my mom had to like wash me at one point, which was so demoralizing. Like you just start, for me, I was breaking down in tears, and it's like such a hard mental thing to deal with. And I'm curious, like yours is even worse. Like
once I knew I was like better, like the no more virus, I wanted to get strong.
Yeah.
Like I needed to get some muscle back on me. And I was lucky when I got back to New York to hook up with Gene Cooper and Tom Parish, and start a good conversation with both those shapers who are just incredible human beings. Amazing. And the best, some of the best shapers in the world. And they were stoked to make me boards, and that made me stoked to want to ride their boards, and not just ride them, but ride them well.
Yeah.
And that would require me to get better,
Yeah.
and be as healthy as I was, but I never got it. I never was able to put back like the bulk and size that I had in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I maybe from having my jaw wired shut for the 10 weeks, or
Shrunk your stomach.
it just shrunk myself. Yeah. And but I would just like every morning wake up, make myself a coffee, and like we had a sit-up bench, I remember.
Yeah.
And my parents never used it. And I was like, all right, they have 5-pound weights and a sit-up bench. All right, I could start with 5-pound weights and just hammer, repetition. Sit-ups. All right, I can do 30. All right, I can do 50. All right, I can do 100. All right, I'm going to get up a half hour earlier because now I can do 500.
Wow.
All right, I can do 500. Let's get all Bruce Lee on this shit. Let's do 1,000. Let's be Herschel Walker and say we're just going to do 1,000 push-ups and 2,000 sit-ups in a day. So now I got to get up earlier. So I'm gonna, because I want to get myself back where I was, but have my body be stronger in different ways, so that if I'm injured again, I'm less prone to being injured.
Yeah.
And that's something. Through the last 24 years, I've tried to maintain, and sometimes you do it better than others. But it's as you get older, taking care of yourself to prevent injury, and making sure that you're able to maintain balance. It's injuries, and people just forget how hard it is to fucking balance. I've been going to the gym for like a month now, which is pretty good. But like, I see this guy on a medicine ball doing like a crane pose.
Yeah.
He's balancing on one leg with his other leg out on a fucking medicine ball. The ball's like wobbling around. I can't do that.
Isometrics.
I can't do that. And I'm like, man, okay. So I feel stronger. I feel like there's less things that are going to hurt, but at the same time, I see that there's other things that you need to incorporate. Not only I should have incorporated them 30 years ago, but I just don't think it was on my plane. So as I hit that 50 mark, I don't want to lose surfing.
Yeah.
There's I want to surf until, they find me floating in the water face up, and you're like, oh, fuck, he died doing what he loved, and, he wouldn't want to go out any other way, and that requires you to, to maintain yourself. And when it's flat for 6 months, you have to have other things.
It's so true. It's so true. I've been kettlebelling for like the last couple of years, and it makes such a difference. Like the balance stuff that we do, like I don't feel like I get as injured as easily.
Yep.
Although I still every once in a while turn the wrong way and feel it.
No, Yeah, I was doing a funny turn all summer long on the like the 10-foot longboard.
Yeah.
It was like dropping a hammer, like big, like stand the board up and cut it back, so like the whole nose is out of the water, and then you just jam the tail.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was like, man, it's like every time I do it, it hurts my knee. So you'd be like, stop doing it. And I'd be like, no, I'm just gonna keep doing it and do it harder. At one point, I was like, I don't think I can walk up a stair anymore. And I was like, all right, time to take a step back and think about what's the underlying, what's going on that I can't do that turn anymore. What did I tweak, or what muscle or tendons am I not, focusing on?
Yeah.
I think right now it's all about hips hip mobility and hip strength for me.
Pigeon pose all day long, man.
Yep.
It's my savior right
so,
there.
you know, so I guess I'm learning more about my body and try to take in more supplements and all that bullshit.
Got some AG1 coming at you. Show sponsor, by the way. No, I was kidding.
Serious. Shilligat and whatever it is, turkey tail. But
got some collagen.
Yeah, collagen, all that. But back to it. So I think Gene and Tom and getting awesome boards from awesome people, and being super being super stoked. We also that 2002 to 2010 or 2003 to probably about Sandy.
Yeah.
Dude, we had epic runs of epic, that was a decade of epic surf.
Yeah.
To the point that sometimes I'm like, it's like an amalgamation of swells because it was so good and so consistent for so long. And, Todd DeCurcio.
Yeah, TDC.
So I think, I would surf. He'd come up from Jersey, and we would surf behind the house all the time, and it'd be pumping all the time. And he and I were just messaging back and forth the other day, like how long it's been since we surfed together. How long has it been since it's been like that quality run of epic swell?
And when we have swell, our wind patterns have changed. It used to be when a storm came off, we'd get more offshores, and now it seems to just go straight west.
Yep, totally.
I
mean, it's so I would. With that being said, I guess you could say that decade shone more on New York, and this more recent one has been Jersey.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Jersey.
I don't like going backhand.
Stupid rights.
And it's so expensive to go there.
Oh, gosh.
God, and then they get you on the tolls and can't park, can't get changed in the street. I'm over it.
And don't even get me started about Deal.
Oh, God, no. And then Jersey surfers, I love you guys and I respect you guys.
Absolutely.
But I'm a goofy foot. And I'm lazy as fuck when it comes to that.
Totally. I think it's the lazy part. I'm like, am I going to make that drive just to go right?
Nah.
Yeah, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, wait, I forgot. Yeah, you could have gone here or there. It's a hike. I think,
I'd
rather
go to Rhode Island, to be
I was
honest.
just about to say, I'm kind of just as close for me to get to Rhode Island now.
Yeah.
So that's certainly... more options.
Yeah.
But there's swells, and not to blow anything up, but Long Island sucks for Rhode Island.
Yeah.
We block so much swell. You know, I talk to the Rhode Island surfers; they would love to just blow up the island.
Yeah.
Or at least the east end. So there's a lot of swell that Jersey will get that Rhode Island, that we'll get, and south of us in Rhode Island, they'll never see any of it because the storm just goes out to sea from us.
Yeah.
But that said, New England holds, and it's it's an entirely different beast.
I want to ask, then, so you come home from Hawaii, and you had to get a job then too.
Yeah.
You ended up working for Chase, I think, and some of the banks, and going from full vagabond to full straight-laced wearing a suit.
Oh, that sucked.
What did that do to your soul?
It was. I was doing mortgages for J.P. Morgan Chase in Brooklyn, and I moved to Long Beach.
Yeah,
and they kind of were a little. If there's no surf, you should be working.
Yeah.
If you're not here, we just assume that you're surfing. Otherwise, you're here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I have no life.
Yeah.
So my life revolves around surfing. I'm not gonna blow off work. Well, I would blow off work for a waist high day. So, but yeah, and that was it allowed that opportunity. So I still got to surf my balls off.
Yeah.
And I remember being at a big sales meeting with one of my buddies who I'd got a job for at Chase, who also lived in Long Beach, and we're like in opposite ends of the room, and there's probably like 400 of us in the room. All of a sudden, I'm like, the flag just switched. And I'm like, oh man, all right, don't freak out. And I'm like texting my buddy, and he's like looking around the room for me, and I'm like, yo, I'm fucking out of here. And he was like, no one's gonna see us leave.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, will they see both of us leave? I said, not from opposite ends of the room.
Yeah.
So of course we're dumbasses. We both get up at the same time. Everyone turns and looks
Jamie
at us.
Dimon turns to you and is
And
like,
we just both walk out, and we're like, walk faster, walk faster, walk faster. And it was good. It was like, that was one of those times where I could say it wasn't like a mistake. It was freaking going off its face. And, it's Surfline still fucks it up all the time.
Yeah.
So it was one of those ones, it switched midday. Surfline had already put the report out. They weren't going to change anything. So everyone's like, oh, it sucks. So it was, a bender of an afternoon, evening of pumping surf with just the local crew. So we all saw the flag switch at the same time. Drop what you're doing.
and then it's like, and then you came back into the work the next day and they're like,
what happened? And I was like,
family emergency.
Yeah. And they're like, John's or yours? And I was like, yes, that's right. That's right. So it was.
How long did that last, that career? It was a while, right?
Yeah, probably like 6-7 years.
Mm.
I think till the housing
Bubble.
The housing collapse, which was like 2008. Yeah, 2008, 2009. And I just went back to doing what I had always done, working in restaurants.
Yeah.
I started working in restaurants when I was 12 in Malvern. And in Hawaii, in college, I did it all through college. I did it in Hawaii. I worked at Hollywood Joe's, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if I talked about this before, but I just was a dishwasher.
Yeah.
And you, as a waiter or bartender, you made so much money. As a dishwasher, you got a little bit of tips at the end of the night, both from the bar and from the wait staff. You got fed 2 meals, one at the start of the shift, one to close out at the end.
And leftovers.
Whatever you wanted as far as that. And again, if the surf was pumping, I'm not going to go to work. I'm a dishwasher, dude.
Yeah.
You're not going to fire me because no one wants to wash dishes. So it's just one of those. I was really lucky in that on those epic days where I was on the schedule, I would blow it off.
Yeah.
And I would hear it. But like I remember I didn't show up on a Christmas, so I was the only dishwasher on for the day for all of Christmas.
Oh, jeez.
And we surfed Makaha, and it was the best I'd ever seen it. And it was Dave Cantrell was out, and I'll remember Downing.
Oh, wow. Keone Downing?
Keone Downing was out,
Yeah.
so with Cantrell, and they're coming in, and I'm just like, how big is it? And they're like, it's 15 to 18 foot.
Hawaiian.
Oh, yeah. They're not, and they're
more like 30, 40.
It was so massive. And we got out of the water, go to the gas station, get a payphone. I got a call. And it's like I'm already 4 hours late to work. And I'm on the west side. By the time we got back, I would have missed. I'd be like there for the. And I was like, I'm not coming in. And they're like, you quit? And I was like, no, I don't quit. I was like, I'm just not working today. They're like, you're quitting. And I was like, no, who quits on Christmas Day?
No.
I'll be in tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're like, you're going to kill you tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Kill me tomorrow, it's worth it.
And they're like, how is it? And I was like, oh, it's fucking epic. And they're like, we'll see you tomorrow. Click. And Campbell goes, how would that go? I was like, I think I still got the job. And I go in the next day. And I think, so back it up, Cantrell was a waiter at Hollywood Joe's.
So he was pissed. He's like...
So, by the next day, Joe had already talked to Cantrell and confirmed it was, in fact, epic.
Yeah.
Come on, you go in the office and sit down. He's like, don't fucking do that. And I was like,
I'm here for a reason.
And I said, I can't. I would never make you a promise I can't keep.
Yeah.
I can't do that. He said, then you'll always be the dishwasher here. You'll never be a waiter. You'll never be a bartender.
Like, please.
And I said to him, I never said I wanted to be a waiter. I never said I wanted to be a bartender. Johnny and I are always going to be in the dish pit. If Himalayas is pumping and Johnny and I happen not to be here, I bet you know where we're going to be. And he's like, oh. But it was funny. I did get to surf probably not too long after that conversation with Joe.
Yeah.
There was a really good Himalaya swell, and I got to surf it with Joe.
Nice.
And that was awesome because then he was like, oh, you're not, I get it. You're not full of shit. You actually do kind of like being out here. And Joe, in addition to being an incredible businessman, phenomenal surfer. He had a spread at least it was in Longboard magazine, but it might have been in Surfer's Journal too, from like a 12-foot day at Tavarua.
Oh, jeez.
Huge. And I remember like at first looking at his board and thinking like he was on like a 7 something, and I was so surprised because he always rode like really big logs.
Yeah.
I was like, what were you riding? He's like 10.8. I was like, 10.8? I thought that was like a 7. He's like, that's how big it was. And I remember like every time I'd look at him like, I don't think I would have gone. I don't know. He's like, yeah, it's so perfect. It's hard not to. And I was like, if you wipe out, he's like, you just don't. On a day like that, he's like, you're just so focused, So, yeah.
So you went back to working dishes. You also had, not to harbor on your bad luck here, but your house burned down too not too long after that, right?
Oh, the house burned down. Whew.
Your family house, right?
Yeah.
Like
Malvern.
not too long after getting injured.
No, probably
right?
within the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you had this shitty couple years of bad luck.
Totally.
Man.
Yep.
And you lost like all your surf memorabilia.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of my boards were outside.
Yeah.
But a lot of the boards got messed up from the
smoke.
No, from fire department ripping the house apart to try to put the fire out, and then lost. Everything inside was just destroyed.
What happened? Do you know?
Yeah, the house was a 1902 Sears Roebuck's house.
Yes,
so
the ones that come in a kit.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So, it has balloon frame construction, which means the framing goes from the basement straight up to the roof.
Yeah.
And there's no kicks. Mm-hmm. There's no break in the floors. It's just because back then you could get a 40-foot 2x4 if you wanted.
Yeah.
So the fire started. It was an electric fire that started in the basement, and once it got into the frame of the house, it just goes right up to the roof. So it just blew right from the basement right up to the roof. Wow. And then from the roof, it just burns itself back down. And I was in New Jersey seeing my girlfriend at the time. And I remember, like, we were driving to go, I don't even remember what, but I get a call from my dad, and he's like, don't freak out, but the house burned down. And I was like, I remember telling my girlfriend, "You turn the car around." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Turn the fucking car around." And she's like, "I don't know, we're going." And I was like, I think I reached over and stepped on her brake pedal.
Wow.
And I was like, "Get the fuck out of the car. I'm driving." And I got back to her house, got in my car, and drove from Jersey to Malvern. I think I made it in like 35 minutes. I was on the shoulder of the Belt Parkway the whole way, and like I was waiting for a cop to go, "Where's the fire?" Like pull me over and go, "Where's the fire?"
Yeah.
My house is on fire.
Literally.
And
yeah.
I didn't get stopped. And we got there.
New York's finest.
You know, the house was pretty bad. And you know, we lost. You know, and I feel for all these people in California right now, because when you have a hurricane, so when you have some natural disasters, you can salvage. So there's things that are salvageable. When you have a fire, there's so little that can be saved, and then the stuff that you do save, you never got the smell of the fire out of it, and therefore you're like, it's always a reminder of everything you lost, and it makes it harder to want to hang on to it. So I feel so bad for everyone that's gone through it, because I to say I can relate is an understatement. I've been in your shoes, and I know how awful it is, how lost, and we got my parents got absolutely fucked by the insurance company. Go screw Allstate. Sponsored
Where
by,
was Luigi Mangione then?
I think he was like just a sperm in his dad. So it just, insurance companies, you're always in it for the bottom dollar. Yeah. And so it makes tragedy that much more worse.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to get back on your feet and to get to find out what your next steps are, and the insurance company is not wanting to give you any roadmap.
No.
And that's just with one family, not a block.
Right now.
Yeah, not a city block, not a town. And now you're talking in California.
17 square miles,
right?
Bigger than Manhattan.
And so and at the same time, the insurance companies are fucking atrocious. You have to put yourself in their shoes, and they're trying to answer as many questions as they can for these people who've been put in this predicament. And it's like the insurance company couldn't answer us because they're not so familiar with the situation.
Yeah.
And now you have 17 square miles of the most densely populated area in the country that all wants the same fucking answer we did. And they want the answer yesterday. Yeah. They want to know where their next move is, how they're going to put their kids into school, where, and it's a lot. And finding residences for all these people is going to be a nightmare.
Especially with all like price gouging going on and shit.
We went from Malvern, like we were in a residence inn in Plainview for like 2 months.
I know that place.
It sucked.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. And when you're in the residence inn, it's not a bad place. It's like, but everyone who's staying in a residence inn is families that are in similar situations.
Yeah.
Who lost their home and are forced to, this is their first step to finding what their next steps will be.
Yeah.
So, everyone in there is a fucking zombie.
Yeah.
No one knows what to do, and so it's a weird situation, and there's not enough residence inns in California for all these people, and the short-term rental market is a really tricky thing. Yeah. In a normal, so we to find. It took us probably 8 months to get back to rebuild, maybe even a little longer. But, it was like 2 months at this house. And then they're like, oh, we're going to sell the house. You guys got to, like, here we go again. I got to try to find another place. And that's going to be the same thing for everyone in California, unfortunately.
And you not only experienced this fire, but then Hurricane Sandy, you also had to experience that as well.
Well,
So you have a very, very intimate knowledge of the insurance world, it seems.
Yeah, and hurricanes especially. So I mean, I can talk of my experience of the one fire.
Yeah.
But in '96, when I was at UNCW, we lost our house during Hurricane Fran.
Yeah.
Because we were oceanfront next to Johnny Mercer's pier, and the pier broke off, washed out our house.
Wow.
So like pilings where the house was. It was crazy.
Fuck.
So then, when right before the Quicksilver Pro, 2011, we got hit with Irene.
Yeah.
And Irene messed up some of the houses on the bay side.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got like a good taste.
Yeah.
So then the next year when Sandy came, we had already been pretty bamboozled by Irene, where we were in Long Beach. And so we were the ones who were putting everything on the third floor of our house.
Yeah. When
everyone else was like, you guys want to come over for a fucking hurricane party? And I was like, do you want to help me bring my generator up to the third floor? And they're like, not really. And I was like, well, that's the only safe place I can think of. And in Irene, we lost all my tools. I'm not going to lose all my tools again. Everything's going to go up into the protected room on the third floor, or I'm going to take it off the island. And so I got neighbors to help me bring the generator up. And then we took 12 and a half feet of water.
Oh,
so
shit.
The basement, then the sub-level, and then like 2 feet of water in the first floor. All good. All my tools, everything else was up on the
Thank
upstairs.
goodness you learned.
And now everyone's wasted. We get back in town, and they're like, "Is your generator okay?" And I was like, "Of course it is. Can I borrow it?" And I was like, "Of course you can." And I was like, so we're staying at my folks' house after Sandy, and I would go every day.
Yeah.
Work on the house. And then when I'd leave at night, I'd roll the generator down the block for one of my neighbors to use who was staying there with their kids. And in the morning, he'd get the kids off, roll the generator down for me to start working on the house.
Damn.
Yeah. But that's, now disasters are disasters. It's, I think, how you recover from it. And, it always will change things and changes your mindset and your outlook, and certainly makes you a little more like gun shy, I guess. Like, we might get hit. All right, I'm gonna be the one who's freaking out a little more than everyone else if there's like a maybe.
Do you feel like you don't get as attached to material things anymore after that? Like, I always feel like if you keep losing things, like you just like, I don't know. Do you feel like it's tough to kind of feel even like at home anymore places because of that?
No, but I think that there's times where you think you still have something.
Yeah.
Like, man, I've been looking for this for like 3 days, and I know, all right, it's not here. It's not in this box. It's got to be with this other shit over here. And then it dawns on you, dude, I haven't had that for like 14 years.
Yeah.
Like, well, don't you remember when you lost? And then you're like, now it brings you back to when you remember seeing that you lost it, and you're like, oh, shit, yeah. It's
a whole loop then.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to ask then, like, how did you find you mentioned like you've always worked in restaurants, but then you've kind of then went and graduated into owning your own restaurant. And one is, your brother is an extremely talented chef.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, how that all came about. And like, I think it was Matataco, which was like your first proper establishment.
Yeah. So after Sandy, moved out to the North Fork, and I started with food trucks.
Yeah.
So 2 vintage Airstreams, and we're doing a ton of catering. And
Was it you and your brother, or
me and my brother were partners for the first year, and then it was tough.
Working with family's tough.
Yeah, and we're better as brothers and business partners.
Yeah.
And then I definitely developed a reputation for tacos on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh man, it's like legit. I'd always be like, the best. Someone would be like, this is like a California taco.
Ooh,
and for me, I'm like,
that's
yeah,
a compliment.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
You know? Or someone from Mexico comes in and says like, all right, these are good tacos.
Yeah.
You know, they're not Mexican tacos. Well, no shit, I'm
Yeah.
not Mexican.
I know.
I'm doing the best I can with what I got. But they, you know, and these are great tacos. And that to me, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Yeah.
And so I think with surfing or with anything else, if you're going to do something, you want to do it to the best of your ability, and push yourself. And to Matataco, we had a great run in Matatuck, obviously, for 5 years.
By the way, I got to sample those tacos. They were
Thank you.
fucking good tacos.
Thank you.
And you weren't even
appreciate
there. I was really bummed. I was like, dude, I'm here. Where are you? And you're like, I'm in catering. I was like,
yeah.
This fucking taco is so good. And the atmosphere was awesome.
It was a killer
It was
space.
a great space.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I was really, super proud of what we had built, as a following we had created. I miss the ocean.
Yeah.
Being on the North Fork for almost 10 years. And the bulk of my catering with the trucks was on the South Fork.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of trying to be 2 places at one time. And the catering always requires me to be there, to babysit and oversee everything. And same with the shop. It's like, wow, I'm really needing to be 2 places at one time, and putting so many miles on the back and forth. Last year, I put like 52,000 miles on 3 vehicles in one season. So it was in a 5-month period. So, you know, that's like 9 cross-country trips.
Yeah, there's no bridge really from the North Fork to the South Fork at all. You got to go all the way back, around, and then back the other way.
And like, God forbid you forgot something at the restaurant, and you're like, I got to send someone, or I got to double back, and it was a lot. And weren't able to renew the lease in Matatuck, and had the space come available on the South Fork, where we could continue to run the catering, and just jumped on it.
Nice.
So now, I think the other thing was, I was surfing one winter day, with Dalton, and we're gonna drive back home to Orient after surfing, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing to yourself?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Why? Why don't you move here?" And I was like, I don't know. Normally, like, I like to think I have an answer for everything, and I couldn't think of a real good answer. Like, yeah, and I was like, I miss the beach, and lucky we're in super high ground where we are in Montauk, so I'm not really worried if a hurricane comes. I think
fire extinguishers are everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah, totally. But I think what the concern in Montauk, obviously, with a hurricane is will be cut off.
Yeah.
And
Good thing you got your generator.
Yeah, you become same with Orient. If and when a good one comes, like did in 38 and with Donna, they become like islands to themselves. I think it was Donna. They said my neighbor in Orient, he went through Donna in Orient at the house he was at. he said Oyster Pond didn't dry out for 5 months after.
Wow.
And Oyster Pond sits in the heart of Orient Village.
Yeah.
So you like, dude, that means Orient is underwater, and the isthmus was cut.
Wow.
So he's like, we'd go, and there was a boat taking you across Truman's Beach because the road was just blown out. And that's what happened in Montauk, too, because it would just blow out kind of where...
Old Montauk Highway
Yeah,
is
where Cyril's is.
Yeah.
Is that's like the narrowest, lowest point. And you're right, you have Napeague Bay on the one side and the ocean on the other.
I mean, it has happened plenty of times with all the hurricanes, all the inlets that form along Fire Island. You know, there's no reason why that wouldn't start there either. How has then the move been and, the business then from moving to the South Shore?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I missed being part of a surf community.
Yeah.
And just having that camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great group of friends on the North Fork, but not the stoke and the froth and the
shared experience.
Totally. And so-and-so is doing something. I don't want to drive from Orient to Montauk to come hang out and then have to drive all the way back.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, all right, we'll go bike down for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not like a big social, would go out all the time, but this is a nice to have the event in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's interesting, we can go be a part of it, be a part of the community.
Yeah.
And I certainly missed it. And I forgot, how much I missed it. And the surf community in Long Beach is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's through thick and thin. And in community, it's in general, you support one another. But when you have that some bond like surfing or something, it makes the connection so much greater.
Yeah.
For the community as a whole. Like rock climbers or snowboarders.
Totally.
But we don't have much snow and we don't have much rock. No. So that we don't have much waves either. So here we get to talk about it. I really like the community. It is a different vibe than Long Beach.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And it's also having grown up competing with a lot of guys from all over Long Island.
Yes.
It's like a reconnection with a ton of old friends that I haven't seen in decades since I was 18 or 19.
I feel like our parents' generation of surfers, they all ended up in Montauk, a lot of them. I feel like Montauk is the place you go to retire if you do very well, obviously business-wise or whatever, but it's that's the place that so many surfers kind of from all over Long Island end up kind of moving towards.
Yeah, I think, or they're second or third generation surfers, and so their parents or their grandparents bought in the 50s and 60s when Montauk was kind of frowned upon.
Yeah,
it was too far, it was too remote, it was too much of just a fishing village. With not much else on offer.
Or a drinking village with a fishing problem,
totally,
as they like to say.
Exactly. I have that bumper sticker on my truck in Ecuador. It's a wonderful community of generations and generations, multiple generations of surfers. I think even maybe more a lot than in Long Beach. Where it's you have 4 generations, or some even close to 5 now, of surfing in their family, and it's great, just to reconnect with these guys who, I'll give you a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Hawaii, I'm driving down when I had the yellow pickup truck, and I'm driving down Cam Highway, right up by Rocky Point. And I see Java Bailey on the side of the road. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's Java. I pull over, and he's with his chick, whatever. And I'm like, oh, dude, just jump in the back of the truck. I'll take you wherever you're going. whatever. They drive them where they're going. I didn't see him again until this year.
Wow. Well, to be honest, I haven't seen him since I was a kid
and I was like, holy shit, Java. I was like, do you remember the last time I saw you? And he's like, yeah, the back of the pickup truck. I was like, dude, it's 24 years since the last time I saw him. It's, it's an awesome reconnection. I'd certainly a testament to the community of Long Island surfers, not just out east, but the island as a whole, how tight-knit it is.
Seriously, especially like I think our generation, we we're very lucky in the sense that the surf community was smaller when we grew up, and you had those ESA contests that everyone went to, and so you got to meet everyone, and then it was like I would spend like a weekend with the Baileys and stay at their place, sleep on their floor, and then or sleep in my truck, and then go surf, Gary's and the inlet there and all that, and then you'd go to Montauk and you'd go see Charlie Weimer and the crew out there, and like you had like your crew, you had people you met, and you can connect with them, and then get into that local crew in each area, and you were accepted because, well, one, you could surf, and you were kind of approved of by those other people,
and they had to at the same time that you'd go to Southampton and Montauk and stay with them.
They would come to you.
Exactly. Like you had to do the contest at Gilgo, had to do the contest in Long Beach. Then, all right, come stay with us now. And it's a small. It was a small enough community that you knew pretty much everyone who was core. Who was core. Yep. And it's funny. I think not funny, but matter of fact, New York surfers are incredibly well traveled, or the core surfers, and it's been that forever.
Yeah,
and so it's always funny, or I don't know, not like ha funny, but like dang, when you're traveling and you're in the middle of nowhere and you stumble into someone like from New York that you've known forever, and you're like, fuck, what are you doing here, dude? I came here to get away from everyone. And he's like, oh, I did the same thing. How long have you been here? How long have you been here? I don't want to say. Okay, well, I've been coming here. Oh, shit, man. You mean we've both been coming here that long and haven't seen each other this whole time? So, that is... I think it's an incredible thing, especially for how small the surf community is, that we're always on the go. And it's also because how awful the surf can be here. But, it's a lot. I think New York surfers have discovered a number of phenomenal surf destinations. Yes. Some for the good and some for the not so good. But,
and we've made our mark, a lot of us,
absolutely.
Everyone from, like you said, like Don Eichen to Ricky Raz to Ball, Tom McGinnis, so many good surfers. Jeff Shanison.
There's so many guys. What's it? Brendan McGill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's funny, like that, and by no means am I discounting Ball.
No,
but it's always one of those things when they say he's the first guy from New York to charge pipe,
and it's like, nah,
and it's like, dude, not for nothing. Yeah. And he's far and away the best.
The
best.
Yeah.
And I would say not only of New York, but in the world.
Yeah.
But as far as there's a long lineage of pipe chargers from Long Island.
Yeah.
And it's a somewhat easy transition from a heaving beach break that predominantly is a left.
Yeah.
To a heaving reef break that is predominantly a left.
Yeah.
And
And if you're used to putting on the rubber and having to get up fast while wearing all that rubber,
yeah.
you get to Hawaii, it's like...
And you're always, and the other thing with beach breaks in general, the wave's never going to break at the same spot, like consistently. You're chasing the swell, whereas on a reef, a swell direction, the waves are always going to be the same in that given swell direction. Yeah. And it makes the learning curve at a spot a little easier. Yeah. Because it's so much more consistently in one spot. But yeah, the amount of excellent to pro surfers that have come from New York is pretty astounding given we're New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people forget that a lot.
So I have to mention, I think a few people would give me shit if I don't bring this up. Your surf etiquette sometimes has been a little questionable in the past.
Oh, it's atrocious. And I think that just goes along with the paddling and everything else. And it's like, man, you're not catching waves. I'm fucking losing I'm going to lose my shit. And it's like, I've mellowed out as I've gotten older. And I think, well, two things. I'm never really an asshole to beginners.
Yeah.
I always remember
just your friends,
just my friends and people who could surf, who knew, like, dude, you fucked up. You know you fucked up. I know you fucked up. Let's say you fucked up and go past it. But a beginner, you never want to have that kind of
experience, that negative.
You don't want to do that, and that you're gonna tarnish the experience for not just one session, but for a good long time. But oh my God, especially between the paddleboarding, riding what were always bigger boards because everyone wanted to be on the chips. Yeah. So I would.
You were always riding the alternative stuff before it was cool.
It was what I always, always did, and I think. And that goes back to, we were allowed to be our own surfers. Yeah. There was not very much media or there was no specific what a surfer was. Yeah. And it was hard to get access to the stuff that would show you, this is Billabong and whatever. So it allowed you to form, sort of your own identity, if that was what you wanted to do. So, I was like, man, my first surfboard is, what's the cheapest board I can get? Mm-hmm. My first surfboard was the Bushman, which is too chippy. But then it was always the old longboard, single fins, knee boards, fishes. Fucking get them at a garage sale for like $20 a piece. Ride them till they destroyed them. Yeah. They were completely waterlogged. Who gives a fuck?
Got them for $20.
Get another one. I remember my dad coming home one day, and he's like, "You're not gonna fucking believe this." And he's got like 6 single fins in the back of his van. What? And I'm like, "What the?" And like all different single fins, all good quality, like casters, sunsets.
No way.
Yeah. In a guy's garbage. And just up the block from us in Malvern. He's like, and the guy stops. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And my dad's like, "You don't mind if I take them, right?" He's like, "They're garbage. Do whatever you want." He's like, "What the hell do you want with them?" And he's like, "My son is like, dude, my son will ride these." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Hold on, I got like 2 more. I'll go grab them."
No way.
But Dad's like, "Go talk to the guy." So he's like an old school surfer. He's like, "Yeah, no reason to keep these things." He's like, "I had to put them out at like 10 garage sales. No one ever wanted them. So just figured I'll throw them away." And so I didn't. There was nothing to say you can march to the beat of your own drummer. Yeah. And then I think when I hit like 20 or 21, and you could see guys starting to get pissed off at me for doing it. As I had gotten better at surfing, being away at school, and now I just wasn't the guy running shitty boards, but as a guy running shitty boards now getting waves.
Yeah.
And that kind of
Might have ruffled a few feathers.
it pissed people off, and then so that pissed people off, and then they're like, and he's an asshole in the water. Not only does he ride these fucking boards, but he's also a dick. And I'm like, well, all right, yeah, I can't argue with either of those statements. I think in hindsight, I may have ruffled some feathers, but I think most people looking back are like, it was kind of all in good fun, and you just never took it too serious.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I fucking eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. And I'd be like, you eat pieces of shit
for breakfast?
I'm like, dude, really? We could go back and forth about this. And I think the other thing I would rarely say it, but if someone just kept at it with, oh, you're on the fucking longboard and this and that.
You're just going to fucking burn them more.
Dude, no. I would say, I'll do this. I'll trade you.
Yeah.
I'll still out surf you, but you can ride my longboard, be fear for your fucking death.
Yeah.
Because it's 10 foot, 50 pounds, doesn't have a leash, and I'll ride your thruster. I'll still have a ton of fun on your thruster. And you're just going to sit back and sulk and go, I fucking hate this guy even more now. So I think I definitely became not just alternative, but I want to ride everything.
Yeah.
And with riding it, with taking into account like the historical value of what I was riding, and maybe thinking, if it's this kind of board, this is how it should be ridden. Like, take a whole board, for example. They're so fucking hard to surf.
Yeah.
They're so hard to surf. And it's
very hard.
And it takes,
you need a specific wave too.
And it's like all these very little body adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd watch, there was a while they were so popular here.
I know.
And I go, oh my God. And I'm going, we don't really have the right wave for it. And you are trying to surf it like you're on a fucking fun shape.
Yeah.
What the, how about you just hand me $1,100 and I'll slap you in the head and give you that eye-opening experience you've wanted? You just that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
And shame on you for wasting the money, wasting the shaper's time. This is a guy's craft that he's honed, worked on this specific design.
Yeah. And
you're fucking murdering it, and not in a good way. And so if I'm gonna ride a hull, I want to ride. I want to ride the boards how they're meant to be ridden.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Style matters.
Yeah.
And riding the right equipment on the right wave.
Yeah.
And I think that was what really got people so pissed off, is I'd catch a ton of waves and be getting so many barrels off the jetties, and people are pissed off that they're not on a 6.9 and that they're on they're 5.5 with
potato chip, which you can't
Yeah.
fucking paddle in the middle of winter or whatever.
Exactly, or any in a wave of consequence,
Yeah.
or just a wave of size, and it's like, wait a second. Especially coming from Hawaii, you already knew, all right, if there's a big wave, you need a big board.
To get in early.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And then the wave seems more accessible, instead of being scared out of your mind because you're in that undergunned and knowing that you're constantly going to be scratching either for the outside or to get in. I don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I want to get waves.
Yeah.
I'm surfing to surf. The 99% of the paddling I still got to do, but I want to maximize that 1% with the right board choice. That's why I have a ridiculous quiver of boards too, which I'm trying to whittle down.
Oh, it's so hard.
It is, but like I said, I think one of the things is as I'm about to hit 50, I don't really see that I'm going to ride my 5'1" Dick Van Stralen fish much more, even in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Like I want the 5'3" or the 5'5", and so I look at it and I'm like, but I'm not. I just don't see myself going back to it.
It's like those pair of jeans that you think one day I'll wear those again.
Yeah.
Nah, not losing the weight.
Yeah, I'm not going to shoehorn myself back into those. Yeah. I looked stupid in them when I could fit in them.
Exactly.
So last year or 2 years ago, I remember Joel Tudor saying like he won't ride a board under 7 feet long unless he doesn't have to paddle for the wave. So like, and I kind of was like, oh, you always have to paddle for the wave. And I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
If it's like a barreling wave 10 feet off the beach.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'll go on a chippier board, but I hate feeling lost at sea on the wrong equipment.
Yeah.
And so that kind of is that dive into alternative equipment. And it just like, I love the history of surfing. That was the other thing. So,
well, it's funny. Like with surfboards, what's great is we can experience a different era just by riding the board.
Absolutely.
You can get in that mindset and kind of understand where people's heads were at by just riding. You get that feel, which is unheard of in any other sport, really. You know, like.
Well, I think basketball. You have different changes of style.
Yeah, true.
So you can, but your approach changes.
Yeah.
And that's the same as surfing. Over history, our approach of the waves has changed, but our equipment's changed. The basketball is still the same. But I wish, and I'm glad to see it now that more people are on more alternative or equipment that better suits their surfing.
Yeah.
Like, I so happy to see some of the guys that I grew up with in Long Beach on like 6'8".
I know.
Kind of eggishy, a little more full. Let's just call them a little more full-bodied equipment.
Yeah.
Because you can see that they're now having more fun. Yeah. Kind of like the fun they'd see me having and be like, he's a dick.
although I bet Mike Salerno's still riding a chippy board.
You know what? I would say chippy, but even it's got more volume.
Yeah. But he won't be riding a longboard or a mid-length anytime soon.
Not a snowball's chance in hell. But more power. I mean, fuck, he's such a
good
he's
surfer.
Best backside barrel rider in Nassau County.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Like I remember one swell, and we were taking turns on the jetty, and it was like 4 of us. So it was like Mike, myself, maybe Chris Martin, and either Richie or TJ or something.
Yeah.
So but it's just the 4 of us. And it's like we're all in rotation, and it's just like we're all getting kegged. And Mike is underneath me.
Yeah.
And
Mike Matchmer.
I'm up. And Salerno goes, don't. What? He goes, don't go. And I just looked at him. I was like, he's going to fucking kill me if I go. And I pulled back, and he got so kegged, made it out. And I was like, sometimes you got to.
All right. Favorite person you've ever burned? Quick, rapid fire. Who do you get the most satisfaction out of burning?
The biggest asshole in the lineup. Whoever's being the biggest jerk and burning everyone, I'll usually go out of my way to give them one back.
Yeah.
And I don't mind getting a little tussle over it, but Now it's all about having fun.
Of course. My favorite is Matchmer. I love to burn Matchmer.
Yeah. Hey.
Well, because I know he's not going to get pissed too much. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to burn your friends.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. And
great.
do you always? And there's like rules to it too.
Of course.
Do you do driver's privilege?
What do you mean?
So like, all right, let's say we go to Jersey.
Yeah.
I drive.
Okay.
If I drive, dude, if the set comes and I want to go, dude, I drove. This is driver's privilege. You gotta pull back.
People who store boards at my place
Exactly.
or anything like that. There's a tax.
Totally.
There's a tax.
Totally. It's a wave tax. Exactly. You had to see that one coming.
What are you riding now? What's the board that's your go-to at the moment that you're just in love with?
The mid-length for black belts by Christian Beamish.
I love his shapes. They're
So,
fucking beautiful. You were actually coming in to pick up one of those boards, I think.
Yeah.
when we last met.
Yes, that's right. So I have two. I have a 9.1 and a 7.5.
Yeah.
So 9.1 is awesome when it's small and awesome when it's huge.
Yeah.
But that it was a little limiting in the mid size. Yeah. So the 7.5 is like to fill that hole.
Full channels.
Yeah, 6-channel, 6-channel single fin, wide point way forward. And the 9.1 you can take off cheater 5 on it and step back and pull in, do big sweeping turns. And it's crazy. I'm only riding like a 7-inch Parish fin on it.
Wow.
So it's a real wide base fin. And then the 7.5, like I said, is just for that more hollow days, like more Long Beach day versus Montauk for the 9.1. So I can easier to duck dive. And then I have 2 longboards coming from Gene.
Nice.
Yeah, 2 Cooper fishes coming.
Oh, man.
So super stoked on that. He just is getting back into getting boards going again.
Oh, that's great
and
to
I was
hear.
like so stoked that I could get in on it. He's just the man. So yeah, I think what other boards? And then I got a hold of a bunch of Scott Anderson's boards.
Oof, they're hard to get nowadays. Yeah.
I was really lucky. Someone out in Montauk was kind of parted with a quiver.
Oh wow.
And he did 2 boards and then sold off 1 more, and I kept grabbing them. And he definitely, as far as California shapers go, because everyone seemed to follow like either your Takayama guy or your Skip Fry guy,
Tyler guy or whatever.
Yeah, but you definitely Anderson boards were something really different, and where they're based out of, and he just didn't follow, and stuck with what he felt was tried and true. But that being said, I have one of the boards from him that I love the most is a K board. So it's like a copy of Skip's K.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it's it's like an egged out, knifey railed thruster, and it's insane. It's insane. So if you ever stumble across an Anderson for sale, jump on it. Anderson and Bruce Jones. Yep.
Bruce Jones boards are so
sick.
beautiful.
Yep.
So.
And your go-to? What are you surfing?
Oh, right now I've got. I mean, this is bad, but I got a mid-length, a 7.6. It's a pop out. It's a GSI board, but I love it. It rides insane. It's fucking great. And been riding that. I got a chop wood board, which is this guy Paul Colbert.
Yeah. Yep.
And Paul shaped me. We took a Steve Liz template for the front quarter or front half. Then for like a small sliver of it, we use an Andrini down the mid, and then a Skip Fry pintail on the
like
tail.
A
so
K-board tail.
It's a Lizdrini fry, we call it.
Nice.
And it's quad, really good in solid surf. smaller, mushier waves. Probably not. I go to the mid-length. And then I have also a 6'8" longfish that I shaped with Jimmy O'Brien from Poem Surf in Rockaway. We took the template of my Josh Hall longfish, which was a skip fry, basically replica. And we took the template and just basically reshaped it, but made it a little softer rails, a little bit more forgiving, and made it a quad instead of a twin keel. And that's actually, I use that with those S-wing fins.
Yeah.
And it's like my go-to all summer.
As a quad?
Twin.
As a twin.
I ride it as a twin
Got
with
it.
the S-wing fins because those things are so long.
Yeah.
That it's so insane. And I
wanted to get a pair of those. The guy had them used, and I just missed it.
Reese Lewis online.
Yeah.
He sent me a pair for free.
Sick.
He's like, we were riding. I'm like, yo, how they going? He's like, what do you like? You know, you Future or FCS? I'm like, Future. He's like, I'll send you a pair. I'm like, no way. And got on it, and it's like, I've used it on other boards, and it doesn't work as well. But for this board particularly, it's like a straighter outline, less roundness.
Yeah.
It worked great.
It seems like Current swears by those.
Yeah. They're sick. They're so fun. They're so fun and loose, but drivey and fast and twangy, and you can lean when you connect that bottom turn and you hit the lip, you feel this twang off.
Oh, I'm sure you
got
to get so much flex out of those fins.
It's sick. So that's been kind of like my go-to right now.
No longboard?
I have a longboard. I just have a torque because I didn't want to. I'm taking it up and down stairs. I don't want to fucking have a nice board to damage. But I'm going to shape, I've got a 11-foot EPS blank that I'm going to grab, and Paul and I are going to do a glider.
Sick.
But we're going to put some wings in it and make it like a little bit more user-friendly than like those skip fry gliders.
Like the ones that Charles is shaping?
Yeah. I love his gliders.
Yeah, he's got some really nice boards.
I love his boards.
Yeah.
So... yeah, that's what, and I've been going out to surf the middle of the inlet between Atlantic Beach and Rockaway, that outer bar on the glider, and it's like the best feeling ever.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that spot and not me.
Please, if you want to, it's mad fickle. It's like half a mile out to sea. It's sketchy as fuck, and
it's just fickle.
Yeah,
it's fickle, and it's hard to get to, and it's hard to see when it's working.
And it's only really good on a foil, to be honest.
Yeah.
and you need a lot of money for that.
Yeah. I'm not. I haven't gotten into it, and it's a big foil community in Montauk, and I was thinking about it yesterday, going back to being a waterman and more time in the water, and I'm like, fuck, these guys,
They're out all
cold
the time.
and windy, it's flat. They're got the kite or the wing, and they're on the water, and there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
So
it looks fun.
It does.
It does look
It
fun.
looks expensive and dangerous.
Yeah.
And some of the foils in the water are just it's sketchy, and a danger to themselves, but everyone else in the water. I already add to that doing what I do. I don't need to put a foil on.
No. Well, if I'm doing it, it's like away from everybody.
And I actually tried an e-foil.
Ooh, yeah.
Just because a guy had it, was like, dude, you do everything. It was so hard.
Oh yeah,
it was hard.
It's counter what you
it's
normally.
like
your body mechanics are so different.
So difficult, but it just it's another thing to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah. Keep you in the water.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. As many things as you can do to keep yourself in the water, and keep your mind off the other bullshit that's
that we're living through.
Yeah, it's. Like that the Surfers movie when Mickey Dore is like, dude, I take off, I drop in, the crying mothers, the bitching, the teachers, the FBI, all that shit just goes off the back. I don't fucking care about that. It's just me on that wave, and that's it. Just all off the back.
Don't forget the. He's got to do the tongue clock when he does that. He's like, it's just me. Well, Justin, where can our listeners find you? This is first, thank you for coming in twice and spending all this time and going through all these awesome stories.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm not promoting anything.
Well, where can, if they want to hire you to cater or something,
Go on matataco.com.
All right.
You can reach out to us. Hire the trucks for your next party.
And your Instagram?
Yeah.
Food Truck on the Run?
Yep. We cover from Manhattan to the Forks, mainly the Forks. But we do a lot of holiday parties in the city over the winter.
Best tacos.
Yeah. But yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone in the water. As I've gotten older, I think I've gotten more stoked on stoking other people out. That's certainly is a change in mindset, and it makes for a better life.
Yeah.
Because I just as much enjoy watching someone else excel or not suck, and like make their little, step
just a little bit better.
Hey, I saw and that you can acknowledge that they did it. Hey, dude, I think you just cross stepped. I think I saw, or whatever it is, and like stoking that person out, makes me just as happy as my getting a good wave now. And I think that's because I never went the lesson, as a surf instructor. So now I can sit here, and I love to give people tips and advice. I just don't, because it's not a profession. It's just like, hey, can I ask you what I'm doing wrong? So I would love to tell you what you're doing wrong. Because it's killing me watching it, and I know I can tell you what to do to make it better, but fuck, you never ask, so I'm never gonna tell you. I'm just gonna be like, hey, that guy never gets better. He does the same stupid thing every time. So it's I think now I appreciate helping others improve as much as I like surfing myself.
To quote Al Chapman, give a wave. Give a wave. They might have a cute sister or something.
Totally. They always have a cute sister.
Well, Justin, man, so good to reconnect
Always
and be able
a pleasure,
to talk to
Tyler.
you here.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. Listeners, go check out matataco.com if you want to get some good tacos for an event. And if you want to follow some good surfing stuff on Instagram, it's Food Truck on the Run.
On the road.
On the road, sorry.
Yeah.
And got to give a quick shout out here to first Joe, our engineer, who's fucking the man.
Killed it.
Got to thank Rockefeller Center for hosting us here.
Sick spot to be at.
Such a great location.
I totally got lost coming in here. I came from the subway this time instead of on the road.
Yeah.
And I'm like underneath.
Yes,
and I'm going,
it's a labyrinth under there.
I think we peed over here. And then all of a sudden I'm at the Today Show and I'm going, oh, I'm so in the wrong spot now. And I don't know how I got here at all. And I'm like looking around and there's nobody around to direct me. And I'm like, I know I can't walk into that door, but someone's got to direct me. There's no maps anywhere. It is definitely.
That's how they get you.
It is.
And the next thing you know, you're sitting next to Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show.
Totally.
Talking about surfing.
That's how it happened. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, great host.
And thank you all listeners for listening. And obviously, don't forget to check out Swell Season. You can follow us online, swellseasonsurfradio.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at Swell Season Surf Radio. And also, now we're on Blue Sky, another social media app, but you can follow us there too. And
a new algorithm to mess with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And listeners, we'll check you all down the line.
See you in the water.
Yeah.